Boys, we are back. Happy Sunday morning. Reacting, maybe overreacting to the Senior Bowl a little bit today. Having to some mock drafts, all the fun while everybody gets into the live stream here. But boys, we're back. How are we doing today? Nathaniel, kicking it to you first. How are we doing today? You excited? Overexcited? Underexcited?
Ooh,
What do you got?
definitely excited. Like we just had the Senior Bowl yesterday. We had the Shrine Bowl earlier this week. It really feels like draft season, and we're getting to mock on Sleeper. We started that last weekend, so it really can't get too much better, but it somehow will over the next couple of months. I'm just excited.
Mike, yourself, how are you doing today?
I'm hype, as the youths like to say. I love the Senior Bowl. Since I'm not looking forward to the Super Bowl this year, this is like my Senior Bowl, or my Super Bowl, sorry. My wife took my daughter out for a little bit yesterday, so I got to watch it by myself. It was nice. Little underwhelming of a game overall, I thought.
It always is.
It usually is. There's a quick start.
We're here for the practices.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I did see someone on Twitter, and I wanted your guys's or use guys's thoughts here. They said if you're going to just go to the practice and leave the game early, you shouldn't go at all because that would open the spots up for somebody else. I wanted to see. Yeah, I mean, I don't care either way, whatever you guys want to do. But then I think they should invite more people. I can't remember which team it was, but it was the team that Tez Walker was on. They only had 3 starting wide receivers, and these guys were gassed at the end of the game. So if that's the case, invite more people in for sure.
Yeah. I can agree with that. That was definitely a concern because you're risking injury and stuff like that too when you're doing that. So,
Right.
But yeah, practices are much more important than the game. 100% agreed. Real quick, as we're diving on in, be sure as you're coming into the live, leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new or haven't subscribed yet. And keep in mind, there are going to be a ton of comments, ton of questions. Can't get to all of them, unfortunately. So super chats will be prioritized as always. And if you want to mock draft with us, we got a mock draft filling up right now with all of our patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Get a free week on us. We give that to you guys for free. See what the Discord is all about. Get in on those bonus podcasts as well. All the fun stuff in the books and all the promo in the books as well. We're close to filling this thing, but we need a few more patrons to jump in. We got a couple spots filled. If they don't fill up soon, I will drop it in the YouTube chat, and we'll go from there. But any quick reactions from the Senior Bowl, boys, in terms of who showed out, who maybe faltered a bit, that we're seeing in the interwebs, things we saw, whatever the case may be. I got a few guys. So
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the first one that we can probably all agree on is it was not a great week for Devontae Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And really disappointing because he had the opportunity to come in here and solidify himself as that back end of the first wide receiver, or like top of the second. And he was absolutely still a day 2 wide receiver, of course. I still think he'll go in the second round, but he didn't solidify himself as part of that like next tier of wide receivers, like with Troy Franklin, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, who I'm sure we'll talk about plenty today. Tez Walker, he constantly was in the right place at the right time, but he just couldn't bring the ball in. He couldn't get his hands up late when it was in tight coverage. He just couldn't control it through the catch. It just was a lot of things where it's like he was there and it was almost a great play, but it never materialized into those great plays. The execution just never was complete. So, disappointing for Devontae Walker, who I thought showed a lot of potential. Not saying that, he's not worth anything anymore, but the Senior Bowl is an opportunity to make a name for yourself, really make an impression. And Bob, as we talk about every single year with this draft season, if you're not improving, you're falling behind because everyone out there is trying to improve their draft stock right now. And those people that are, if you can't keep up, you're falling behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if anything, just real quick, chiming on Walker before we kick the mic for any reactions he may have. Honestly, I think this is great for Walker in terms of fantasy perspective because it's going to calm him down for jumping up the draft board that little bit. He's going to have a great combine. We know he's a great athlete, but this is definitely concerning for a lot of people. We did mocks that night, a benefit of being in the Discord. We did mocks all week throughout the Senior Bowl practices. We did a mock immediately after games kind of wrapped. I got him in the middle of the 3rd round, and I think that's a little low for the talent that I do think is there. I'm willing to take a shot on him a little earlier than that, but if anything, keeps his hype at bay for a little bit longer, and hopefully with the combine ahead, that doesn't go too far.
the biggest thing is this year there's just so much wide receiver talent in this class that
Sure.
if you can't stand out, that is an issue. I mean, just because
Mhm.
there's so many good wide receivers this year, you have to be able to stand out.
Yeah, Mike, your first reactions, Senior Bowl. Any players you want to bring up or dive
One
into?
thing I can tell you is Spencer Rattler can make some NFL throws. I was pretty
Hmm.
Yep.
impressed with what I saw from him, and I was very unimpressed with what I saw from Sam Hartman. And we were talking about Ted Walker with some drops. There was a lot of passes that were thrown by Sam Hartman were really just not where they needed to be, and not what I expected from a guy who's a 6-year player. He played, a year at Notre Dame. We're talking this is a big school, which is a big step up from Wake Forest. So when we're talking Tez Walker, we got to think too. Some of them were not on target, but was a little unimpressed by him. Ben Sinnott, Bob, looking great. We knew he was going to. We knew that was going to happen. And Devin, Lad McConkey, no longer a sleeper. By all means, not at
Yeah,
all.
no, no.
I'll tell you what. I watched some film on Lad. I want to get a little bit more, but man, I'm impressed. I mean, we're talking a guy, the stats and the production. I know that they don't necessarily add up when we're looking at the prospect overall, but there is something there with Lad McConkey for sure.
Yeah, no, the crispy routes is huge. And they were talking about it all broadcast is that's what translates to the next level.
Yep.
Is when you have a guy that can catch the ball and then have these crispy routes that are just, I mean, pristine routes and can create separation out of, thin air basically. And at the drop of a hat, that's huge. So our draft board is full. So we're going to kick to this first one. I apologize all those watching on YouTube who can't get in this one. I was able to drop some in the chat last time. Not today, not right this second. We do have more mocks ahead. This is not the only mock we're planning on doing. We will get through as many as we can. So as long as we can keep everybody away from their families, we are going to be mocking away this Sunday morning. So I'm going to hit start. Make sure all your notifications are off, your sounds are off, boys, before you get your ears blown off.
Yeah, I did.
And away we go. We are starting the draft. That is less dramatic than I wanted it to be because of the confirmation that I wanted to start the draft. But here we are. We got our buddy Chris at the top here at the 101. I wonder what he's going to do. This is a non-tight end premium for this one. We are running a ton of mocks. We don't have any tight end premiums going specifically right now, solely because it's just kind of, I think tight end premium is coming around, but we still have a lot of leagues that don't do the tight end premium. So not right.
Yep.
This one is just a super flex PPR, no tight end premium. As all these will be today, we will be getting to some one quarterback as well. So with all that in mind, we got Chris on the board taking his sweet time, thinking over pick 101. I appreciate time.
Well, he's a one quarterback guy, Bob. That's his jam.
True.
So putting him
He
in
might be
he's probably just a little panicking right now. I don't know.
out of his depth a little bit, I guess, possibly. And
There
as in a one
is.
quarterback, Marvin Harrison Jr. should go 101. Not as much my opinion in a super flex, but that is documented. But we see Marvin Harrison go 101 over Caleb Williams. I do. But then we see Caleb Williams rightfully taken next. So I'm at the 104, and this is a great spot to be. If you're anywhere in the top 6, I feel pretty dang good about what I'm drafting. I know we have that 7 tier with Brock Bowers getting in there as well, but I still feel less excited drafting Brock Bowers than I probably should at this top point. And so I got quarterbacks falling to me. I'm going to take my quarterback 2 at this point. That's going to be Jaden Daniels with the rushing upside, and I do believe he has a great passing ability as well. I'm still not as sold on Drake May as I'd like to be if I'm drafting him ahead of these guys. So that's where I went at 104. We see Drake May come off the board again at 105. That Odunze at 106. I'm assuming it's going to be Brock Bowers here, but who knows? Mike, you slotted yourself in at the 108, jumping in at the top of the next tier. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I think this is a good place to just kind of see how the board pans out. And once you get to the back end of the draft, at least at this point in the offseason, I feel like it's very hard to really have a well-formulated plan because we don't know. I mean, obviously, if this was a real league, we would know our league mates. We would know their tendencies a little bit better. But this one's kind of tough. So I'm surprised that Brock Bowers hasn't gone yet. I would love to take him next if I could. But I do have a queue set up, so I'm not super, super worried about it. There's going to be good value here. And remember, it's always okay to trade back. Well, I'm not taking Brock Bowers, that's for sure. I guess he just went, but that's all right. So just looking at my queue, There's some guys, and I'll tell you what, looking at this pick right here, and there's some quarterbacks that I like, but I think it's a little too early. If I had the 108 in an actual rookie draft, I would make a pick here. I would make the pick that I'm about to make. I'll do it to keep the draft moving along. And then I'd be interested in trading up anywhere between the 202 and 204. I think there's going to be really good value in that range for quarterbacks and running backs. I'm really and Nate has been saying buy second round picks in this draft class. He's been saying that for quite some time. And just watching how these mocks are going, he was right, because these mocks and what I'm seeing, there's going to be great value, especially in the first half of the second round in 2024. I'm excited about it.
It's a mantra that's right every single year. Second round picks are constantly undervalued. I mean, it's not hard for me to be right these days. Come on.
Here we go. If Brian Thomas didn't have Neighbors on the field, I think he would have had more production, and it would be a question of him or Odunze. You know, I think maybe you get into this discussion. I thought it was an interesting comment. That's why I brought it up. But, you know, the thing is he did have Neighbors on the field. And to me, that's part of my issue with when I go to watch Brian Thomas, part of why I can't put my thumb on the pulse of how I feel about the guy, like, you know, internally and fully, is because I get my eyes taken away by Malik Neighbors the whole time. So that's just my, you know, my thought with this is like, who knows if Brian Thomas is as efficient as he is without Neighbors on the field. You can say the same thing with Neighbors. So I just think it's an interesting thing here. And my wife chiming in, I would have taken Keon Coleman at the 108, but okay.
Well, Lannis, that's why you're drafting at the 108 and not the 112, I guess.
Yeah, and this is partially because somebody who has access to the Instagram on Dynasty Rewind gave false advice suggesting that somebody take Keon Coleman at the 108. Luckily, someone else with access to the Instagram page cleared that up, and apparently she just hasn't taken full note of that yet. So stop trying to get my wife to draft bad players early. Thank you. But with that said, Mike, you went Brian Thomas. We see Bo Nix. Nate, you can't draft him in this round. Sorry. Jonathan Brooks, Troy Franklin, falling all the way to 111. Love to see that. Nate, you're on the clock at the 112. What are you going with here?
I am on the clock. And Bob, I was watching some wide receivers last night, and I was watching Brian Thomas again, and I love Brian Thomas.
Still love him.
I hope that you can come around to him at some point. But you know who I really, really love? And I just can't get over
McConkey.
Ladd McConkey.
The McConkey talk is alive and well.
I can't pass on him at this point. Like, I also have Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell and JJ McCarthy, depending on draft capital, in my queue at this point. But I feel the best about Ladd McConkey. He is the most pro ready. His skills translate so well. He seems like a plug-and-play player. And with the way that his momentum is moving now at the Senior Bowl, and I think he's going to test really well. I think he's going to test better than people expect. So with the combine hype that I expect him to get on top of the Senior Bowl hype he's already gotten, he's coming from a big program like Georgia. I think he's going to end up getting, you know, early second-round draft capital, if not making it into the first round this year with how we're valuing wide receivers. And with – I know I said it like a month ago, like everyone's looking for the next Puka Nacua. Ladd McConkey is very versatile, and you can use him in a lot of ways. So I think teams are going to be excited to pick him up. I think he could be a late first-round pick. And if he's a late first-round pick in the NFL draft, then I'm considering him as soon as the 108, 109, 110 probably. Yeah, at least in play.
Yeah, I think that's well in play. So we have the first round in the books. Nothing too crazy picks wise. I think you could say that Ladd McConkey getting in the back of the first is, but we've seen him creeping up there slowly but surely. And like you touched on with all the hype from the Senior Bowl, and you even boiling into that, we saw hype on him coming out, you know, whatever the case is. So pretty somewhat standard. I think, you know, Troy Franklin dropping back to the 111. I saw him go in the second of one of these mocks previously. So yeah, I know the disrespect is real. So I almost got him wide receivers to choose from. I know. Well, and that's the same thing with, you know, running backs in this class. When we talked about this, it's kind of easy to get lost in the shuffle, especially when ADP on Sleeper is not perfect yet. Because a lot of people are still learning the class. A lot of people are going to stick to their guys, even if maybe they should be drafted a little later, whatever the case is. So just things to think about. And we get some stuff cooking behind the scenes on some ADP stuff. So I don't know if we're just, you know, going to share that yet or what, but just stay tuned. We got stuff cooking in the lab. The boys are cooking in the lab. It's going to be something, that's for sure. And I'm curious about who I'm going to get to pick here. I got a guy or two in mind, but I don't know. We'll see. We got Michael Penix coming off at 2-1, which I think is early. I'm not a Michael Penix guy.
I'm
Keon
really
Coleman at
falling off on him.
I'm Keon Coleman at 2-2. Don't hate it. Would like him a little later just based on what's on the board, but at this point he's in that range where I can't really hate on the pick too much. I'm torn between a running back I really like and a wide receiver who I've come around on. I'm going to go with a running back I really like and I've liked for a long time. Bucky Irving at 2-4. Let's kick off some running back fun in the second round. And I think we've talked about it. This second round is going to be one of two things is going to happen. Either running backs are going to come to the end of the second, or running backs is going to be an incredible value throughout the second round, especially if you can, nail down who to draft specifically. Nate, we talk about it a lot, not always knowing who to draft, but especially who not to draft. And seeing these two quarterbacks, I think Penix and McCarthy's trajectory, and you kind of touched on this with McCarthy, their trajectories in drafts depends on where they get drafted in the NFL. Because if either of them crack the first round, same with Bo Nix, even we feel pretty good about Bo Nix being a first round pick, at least around here. But if those guys either of those guys for whatever reason get drafted in the first, not saying they should or shouldn't at this moment, but just if they were to, we probably see them drafted earlier. If they don't crack first rounds, is Penix worth a third round pick at that point? I don't know that I draft him at the third. I definitely would be advising it at least.
So if Penix goes second round, I think, say he goes second round to
my guy, Blake. My guy. I took my guy, not yours. Sorry, man.
Say Michael Penix goes to the Vikings in the second round. At that point, you're probably interested enough to a late second.
Yeah, I mean, and that's.
Well, I want to just touch on that real quick because you remember the hype that Kellen Mond got when the Vikings drafted him in the third round, and I don't think he's in the NFL.
Michael Penix Jr. is a lot better than Kellen Mond.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
yeah,
I mean, his
better than Kellen.
His footwork and the way he twists his body when he throws the football, he has, you know what? And he is not 6 years in college. 4 of them were with season-ending injuries. He is far from a polished product coming into the NFL. I'll say that. So he has to go somewhere where he sits. But I don't hate him being a second-round pick. Personally, regardless of where he goes, I probably don't want him before the 2-6 at this point.
And the thing you touch on there, Nate, that is his perfect landing spot. If he's not day 1, Vikings day 2 is perfect because it's a good system, can fit into I think he can play within a system.
Yeah.
Great wide receivers. He's landing in that's the perfect situation for a quarterback, especially one that's not drafted day 1, can kind of develop that much more.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that his stock would make me more interested, but I'm still very, like you said, probably I couldn't fault somebody late second. But Joe Maiden mentioning here that we got Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell dropping into him at the 2-7 makes the right choice, goes with Xavier Worthy. And that was the other player I was thinking about at the 2-4 instead of Irving. So I went Irving, and I shook up the whole draft board because Blake probably would have taken Irving. Who knows what would have happened at 2-7. Crazy things happen in mock drafts, and that's why mock drafting is so dang important. Mike, you took Jatavion Sanders at the 208. I'm going to take this comment away, not because I didn't like it, but because it was up there too long. But, Mike, you took Jatavion Sanders. Let's talk about him.
The quote-unquote tight end consolation prize of this draft, if you will. Tight end class, a little underwhelming as of this point. We got Sanders, we got Bowers, we got Ben Sinnott, Theo Johnson, Cade Stover. There's going to be some other guys. Bob's in love with somebody currently from Arizona. What is his name again, Bob?
Tanner McLaughlin. Put him in your brain.
There you go.
Put him in your brain.
I like JT Sanders. I'm curious where he's going to go in the draft. And the funny thing about him, for how large of a man he is, he was just always wide open. It's like everyone's like, oh, this guy's too big. Maybe he's slow. We're just not going to cover him. And like I said, always wide open. And really good after the catch, too. So I like him a lot. And at the 208, I know it's not tight end premium, but tight ends matter, people.
Yeah, 208, nothing to fault there, Mike. I think at this point in the draft, I'd be surprised if you're picking him up that late, quote unquote, in second rounds. Because with Brock Bowers and how people feel about the tight end class, I'm coming around a little bit on the depth of this tight end class, at least a top 5 or 6 or so. But especially just looking at some production profiles and things like that. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see a tight end squeak up the board, just because people love drafting tight ends. People like having tight ends. People like drafting tight ends a little too early. And when there's only so many to draft. The economy of the draft board being so little is going to push them up the board. So with that said, we got Devontae Walker going at 2.9, about in the same spot, not too much of a drop off there from what we've seen in most mocks. Adonai Mitchell going 2.10, Ricky Pearsall going 2.11, which is by far the earliest I think I've seen him, and I don't hate it. He had a decent enough showing. I think he even left early, which
And
good
Bob,
on him.
Who brought him up last weekend as a sleeper?
I'm sure you did. You did. Good for you. And then we got another running back who I think has cemented himself as a second round pick, mid to late second. We had Tom Sobieski shouting it out early. Or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't him. I just wanted to say his name because I was able to get it right last week. We had Ryan who chimed in earlier before the draft even started or before the live even started, wasn't able to make it today, but he wanted you to grab some Marshawn Lloyd in the mid to late second after showing at the Senior Bowl. And I think it was a great showing to boot. So shout out Tom Sobieski, though, and I got your name right, so appreciate that. Nate, talking your picks or Pearsall, either one.
Yeah, I mean, well, Pearsall, number one, great route runner, looked really good throughout the Senior Bowl, good hands. I don't think the 2.11 is where I'm picking him up, but I think he's definitely solidified himself as like a third-round pick, if not like an early fourth, depending on how landing spots and everything fills out. But Ricky Pearsall, if he's a fourth, fifth-round wide receiver, definitely going to be keeping an eye on him. Marshawn Lloyd, he was I don't know if he was on the national team or the American team. Looking real quick, he was on the national team. He was the national team's running back of the week, voted on by the American team's defense. Marshawn Lloyd's ability, not just as a receiver, but also as a runner, was showing off. He looked like one of the best running backs in the Senior Bowl. Cody Schrader was there. I thought he looked really good as well. Unfortunately, Cody Schrader's not in the sleeper. Otherwise, I'd be picking him up here, probably here the third round. But Marshawn Lloyd, really happy picking up here at the end of the second. I've been picking up here like an auto draft, basically, the last couple of weeks. I think he's easily a day two running back at this point. He's solidified himself at that with the Senior Bowl and with day two draft capital and the skill set that he brings to the table. I am really excited about picking him up at the late second.
Yeah, I think you're great pick. So we round into the third round, we get around to the third round. There we go. I know numbers, I promise. Xavier Legette pops off at the 3-1. Audric Estime at the 3-2. Brendan Rice, who is somebody I think, is surprising, hasn't been shoved down our throats as much as I would expect, considering he's Jerry Rice's kid, if you didn't know. I'm surprised we haven't been, more... And that's what kind of made me think he wasn't very good marketed. Exactly. We haven't been, he hasn't reached our algorithms as much, I guess, whatever the case is. But love that pick. That was definitely a consideration for me here. But I still got some guys I like on the board here. I'm torn between Jalen Polk, Blake Corum, and somebody down here I lost track of, but Jacob Cowing. But I'm not going to draft Cowing because I was able to get him in the fourth round. Caleb, you keep calm there at the 4-2 if you're watching. I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Polk here. Receiver, I think, is plenty polished, great hands, and will fight a dude. You love to see that tenacity out there. Just a good player out there. And then we see another one of Mike's guys, Malachi Corley, who also had a good Senior Bowl. I believe he was voted, I think it's as the best wide receiver for one of the teams. So, you can have Cowing, dang right I can. I'm going to take all of them. They said the same thing about Josh Downs last year, just so y'all know. Yeah. But mouthing off down there. But so we see Malachi Corley, Jamari Thrash come off, and then our buddy Joe Maiden takes Blake Corum. Great pick. I think by far the highest on Blake Corum out of all of us. Nate, don't punch your mic. Sorry. It's okay. So Mike, you probably weren't sniped with Blake Corum coming off the board. What are you thinking here? Where are you going?
I actually was considering Blake Corum there. He was in my queue. My question to you guys is, if he gets drafted by Jim Harbaugh, some Harbaugh in Los Angeles, do you think his ADP is just going to go through the roof?
I think any running back drafted to the Chargers, ADP will go through the roof. I don't think it has to be Blake Corum, to be honest.
Jim's going to run the ball.
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple guys that I like here. Unfortunately, I got to go with my gut, and I got to take this nice athletic tight end, Ben Sinnott, the 308.
Tight ends.
Can you put Mike's comment up on the board?
Yes, I
I
would.
would like to discuss this. The difference in Polk and McMillan from Washington is this: Jalen Polk has some of the best hands in this class, without a
Mhm.
doubt. I like McMillan. He doesn't fight very much after the catch. I think he's going to be a good possession slot receiver in the NFL, but Jalen Polk, to me, is a more complete wide receiver than McMillan overall.
Very concise, Michael. That was
like that.
I mean,
beautifully said.
I like both guys, and honestly, I've been noticing that I've been getting a lot of McMillan in the 4th round. I think that'll
Mhm.
change depending on his capital. Excuse me, it's still early. I'm old. I could see him sneaking up into the back in the 3rd round, mid 3rd round, something like that. But I like both players, but still, I'm more on Jalen Polk. I was kind of hoping he would get to me at the 308, but I kind of knew he wasn't going to get past Bob there.
Nope. No, one of my early favorites. And Nate, I saw you have a little reaction to our last pick, Roman Wilson, coming off the board at 311. Another
Man,
Senior Bowl riser for sure. A guy who was out there
would be
just
great
making great
value at
catches.
312.
Yeah, running great routes. And somebody in the YouTube comments was even saying when we I believe, I don't remember when it was, but they were talking about that Roman Wilson was sounding like a guy you'd have to draft in the 2nd. It's not there yet. I hope he doesn't get there anytime soon, but it's getting up there for sure. You guy who probably wasn't even drafted in most 3rd round mocks, let alone 4th round mocks. Definitely getting some hype for sure. So Nate, who you got now?
Yeah, my cue was Ray Davis, who also had a great Senior Bowl. Roman Wilson. Those were the two I was looking at. So now, I'm sorry, Bob. I'm going to take Jacob Cowan.
It's nice.
He's the next best guy up. So
see, here's the thing: I win either way because respect gets put on Jacob Cowing's name, or
3rd
I get
round.
to draft him. Either way, I'm happy. We did see a little injury scare with him. It sounds like it's nothing serious. My main concern is if he's going to be able to participate in the combine now. If because the thing is too is even if he were to be game healthy by the time that comes around, he's not able to train until he's game healthy again. So it's just one of those things that if he's not able to train, he's probably not going to participate in a lot of drills. So especially like testing, but I'd rather see him out there for like the field skills training and things like that, as opposed to seeing how fast he can run in a straight line in shorts. But either which way, love the pick there, Nate, and a guy that I think we all like a good bit around here, Jacob Cowing. I think we're all fans.
Yeah.
So, all right. Moving to the top of the 4th, we see Jermaine Burton, Jalen McMillan, and Frank Gore Jr. Like you said, Mike, McMillan coming off at the 4-2. Frank Gore showing some pop in the Shrine Bowl. I'm going to go tight end fishing here. A guy I want to get on everybody's radar a little bit is going to be Tanner McLaughlin. And I don't necessarily think you have to draft him here yet. I don't know if you will come draft day, but Jacob Cowing is washed. Is it talent or is it washed?
Talent.
I don't think I throw an R into anything unnecessarily. Maybe I do.
Worst is
But,
more like a East Coast, like Appalachia type thing.
yeah.
That's not really a Midwest
right.
thing. I do notice that
yeah.
Bob says talent differently than we do, but I don't
Yeah.
I don't
I
pick up on
did.
him saying worst.
I did pick that up in a video where I did hear a little bit of a Y in there, a little bit of, or more of an E,
You just did it.
an EA. Yeah, exactly. So that was a little much.
Also, Chef TV. Yeah, I think Nesbitt
Went
went
back.
back to school.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we believe.
Yeah.
So
Wasted all that time scouting him too.
yeah, I do like Tanner McLaughlin a good bit. Showed a lot of good receiving work, and he was a guy who popped when I was watching Jacob Cowing. So a guy who I wasn't even, really, on at all until I happened to see him playing there. So I got to get your eyes on, I guess, if you can. Dolan Holker, another guy who is kind of an older prospect because typical. I don't want this to seem like I'm saying anything bad about the guy. I went on a mission trip, BYU guy, took a year or two off to do that, but was very efficient in 2 seasons prior to the transfer, and then exploded in a full season at Colorado State. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Along with that, another guy I was thinking about here. So we see Michael Pratt, Will Shipley, Spencer Rattler, who I love that pick 100%. Mike, who do you got here?
Well, I will tell you that if he was in sleeper, I would be drafting Luke McCaffrey right now, but I can't because he's not in there. So and I'm looking at the quarterbacks. Is there any quarterbacks that it could be? For example, I will not be drafting Joe Milton anywhere. The NFL shouldn't be there. My comp for him is poverty. Anthony Richardson. I'm sorry, he is terrible. He is just terrible.
Yeah, that's rough.
What's the dude's name from TCU, real quick, Nate?
Jared Wiley.
Yeah, I don't see him in Sleeper either.
Yeah, he's not in Sleeper.
For the record,
Sure?
Sleeper, if you did college football, this wouldn't be a problem because the guys would already be in your system.
Wiley's in Sleeper.
Is he?
He's on there. Yeah.
W1.
Right here. See?
There he is. No, I meant the running back from TCU. Sorry.
Oh, that's Bailey?
Amani Bailey.
Yeah, I don't think he's in there.
He's not in here either. So I'm just going to draft Cade Stover. Put some respect on Cade Stover's name. Thanks for screwing up my ADP, Sleeper.
Very
3 tight ends.
I'm talking when I drafted JT Sanders. I'm like, oh, this tight end class isn't very good, and then I just draft 3 of them.
Yeah. I like the top 5 or so. I
think the tight end class will be okay.
Also,
I think our expectations are pretty high after last year.
Rattler would have been my pick there. Got sniped right before me. I thought at the 4-8 would have been a good spot for him. And then, like I said, I would have went Luke McCaffrey. I like what he showed out with at the Senior Bowl too. I think he's going to be something. I'm not going to say he's going to be like a team's wide receiver 1, but he's definitely going to have some value for sure.
Good deal. So we're wrapping up this 4th round. Nate, who are you hoping to draft with pick irrelevant there?
Yeah.
In this round?
I still have some kind of interest in the guy at the top of the ADP right now, Johnny Wilson, but not enough interest to draft him yet. I want to see a bit more. I heard the Senior Bowl that he didn't really look like a wide receiver. He looked more like a tight end. So if he becomes a tight end, I'm going to be much more interested in him. If he's sticking as a wide receiver, I'm probably going to be pretty much out. Outside of that, I'm probably looking tight end or running back here. And 2 tight ends on my board right now are Holker and Jaheim Bell, both who I thought looked good this week. One at the Shrine Bowl, Holker, and Bell at the Senior Bowl. And then 2 running backs, also one at the Shrine Bowl, one at the Senior Bowl. Dylan Laub out of New Hampshire. Everything I heard from this week was that Dylan Laub looked like he was by far the best pass catcher at the Senior Bowl out of the backfield. And that's with some pretty good names there. Like Marshawn Lloyd was there. But Laub is just such a good receiving back. He's getting compared to Darren Sproles and things like that by these coaches and things. So he's someone I want to keep an eye on. I haven't got to watch a ton myself. New Hampshire tape's kind of hard to find. And then the other running back I have an eye on is Blake Watson, actually, out of Memphis. He looked really good for the Shrine Bowl, had a lot of explosiveness, created a lot of big plays. So Blake Watson, I think, is someone we have to keep an eye on too, out of Memphis. So 412. Oh, what do I do? I want this pick. No, I don't want to trade out. I want to take my dart. I want to take my dart throw on somebody, and I'm going to do it on
Bell.
Jaheim Bell.
Personally, I'd vote Bell.
See, there's also other tight ends on the board. See, I probably wouldn't draft the tight end here because I still like AJ Barner a little bit, Theo Johnson a little bit. Who can I get maybe in the 5th round if I have a 5-round draft right now? That's where I'll go grab a tight end. So with that in mind, let me go after a running back. Let me go after Dylan Laub, who I haven't really got to watch a lick of film on outside of the Senior Bowl, but what I've seen and what I've heard from other analysts and people who were there, scouts, sounds all good. So if he has any kind of receiving upside at the next level, that I always talk about receiving upside for running backs is what we're looking for late. So I'll take a shot on Dylan Laub.
Good deal. Anything else you boys want to touch on with this draft while I got the other one, or while I'm dropping the link in our Discord?
Ooh.
Shout out if you want in on our next mock draft, head on over to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You can get in on one of these mock drafts for free right now, 7-day free trial. Check out the Discord, get in there, listen to some bonus podcasts later today for free. Check it all out. I'm dropping it right now in that.
Right.
So anything else you guys want to touch on in this mock draft before we move along?
I did think it was interesting. We did see 6 quarterbacks go off in the first 15 picks.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to, if that's going to happen again months from now, it's going to require all these guys to go first round. Though I think there's also the chance, someone loves one of these quarterbacks who ends up going second round. I wouldn't put it past someone to pick him up early, mid-second.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Especially because everyone will say, "Oh, the next Jalen Hurts," and like that's
that
and
this team was trying to trade into the first to get him. Will Levis, prime example from last year, was ADP at like 110 last year, leading up to the season. So it'll 100% happen that if they're first round, second round, especially in like the top 50 or so, they'll squeak up the board a pretty good bit, in my opinion. Yeah. But I tend to agree with you. I think we'll see some quarterback shakeout. But I do think, and we touched on this a little bit, that take your shots on quarterbacks throughout the draft, and especially in like 4th and 5th round, where you're just kind of hoping for lightning in a bottle anyway. A great lightning in the bottle could just be drafting a quarterback or running back that you can flip later because they get activated as a handcuff to whatever quarterback they're starting behind, whatever the case may be. Or God knows, you might get real lightning in a bottle and, God forbid, to throw out a superlative, draft the next Brock Purdy or something along those lines, whatever the case may be. Somebody who, very unlikely, but albeit possible. This draft is filling up nice and quick too. We got 2 spots left in this next one. Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this board before I take it away?
No, sir. You can tell me which one are we doing next? 4.0?
The 4.0 Superflex.
I didn't know if we were flipping over to 1 QB yet, but okay, cool.
We'll do that last. Last. All right. I'm going to take the board away then, Mike. Did you have anything else to add? No?
Nope, I'm good. You guys hit the nail on the head there.
All right. Let's see. How was Bo Nix at the bowl? Nate, did you get a good look at Bo Nix at the bowl? So, I did, but I want to get this board ready.
Yeah. So, I heard a lot of different things, and I heard some people say, "Oh, the quarterbacks, none of them came out here and looked incredible." And that is what I've heard. That none of them went out there and showed, "Hey, I need to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft." But that's okay, because we didn't expect Penix Jr. or Michael Pratt or any of those guys to come out there and be on the same level as Drake May or Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. But what I did hear is that they went out there and they did everything that was asked of them, and that there wasn't a ton asked of them at the practices either. It wasn't the pro day kind of throws where, hey, roll out to your left, go across your body and throw 50 yards down the field. They weren't asking them to do that. We're going to see that later during the pro day. So what the quarterbacks did do is they delivered pretty accurate passes. Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, both of them looked good throughout the practices. I know I heard some people say they didn't look great. They looked great. It was just good. Like, it wasn't great, wasn't bad. They looked good out there. Michael Penix Jr. obviously didn't play in the game. Bo Nix did. He played 1 drive. He said he wanted to go out there and play a game. He looked good in his 1 drive. I think Bo Nix is a really good quarterback. The one thing that constantly stands out for me when I watch Bo Nix is he does have a tendency to kind of throw falling away when facing pressure. And we even saw that a little bit in the Senior Bowl. But outside of that, he's a great quarterback, and I think Michael Penix Jr. actually did pretty well for himself this week as well. So,
yeah, I think the one thing that Jim Nagy mentioned was like, yeah, they started off maybe a little slow on the first day of practice, but they got better every day.
Yeah, and there's no chemistry with these wide receivers going into the week.
And that's a big thing too. I think not enough people take into consideration that, like, there is unless you have wide receiver that, if Troy Franklin was out there catching passes, if Tez Johnson was out there catching passes, I think you think of Bo Nix in an entirely different scope. But obviously not the case. You have no chemistry. You don't understand. You don't have the same feel for their speed, their pacing, and all that stuff. And it takes time to develop that, and you can only throw to spaces as much as you can before you really understand how much somebody can go past it or not or whatever.
Yeah, it's really important to make sure you listen to a couple of different sources of people that you trust that are actually there with eyes on the practices. Mm-hmm. For example, the NFL Draft Stock Report, which Trevor Sakima and Connor Rogers do for PFF. I really respect those guys. They know what they're talking about. They were there at the Senior Bowl, and they talked about, one of the throws that Bo Nix has that people were kind of saying, oh, look, Bo Nix doesn't look very good. He doesn't have a very strong arm because he underthrew a wide receiver during practice. They said, everyone there obviously knew that the wide receiver ran one route and Bo Nix thought he was going to run a different route, and that's what it was. But then you see the video get circulated on Twitter and everyone's like, oh, look, Bo Nix can't throw it very far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to make sure you know what's going on.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind too, there's going to be a lot of confirmation bias going around too. That like if somebody wasn't in on Bo Nix to begin with, this is ammo. If somebody was super in on Lad McConkey beforehand, this is ammo. Whatever and I'm not saying that it's a different conversation, but you get what I'm saying. That the source can be biased, and that's at the end of the day unfortunate, but fact of the matter is, but this next box is full. So we are going to get right on into this next one. Shout out the patrons. Dynasty Rewind, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. If you want to get in on one of these mocks, we are mocking literally every day. Shout out to our Discord moderators, Hofspur and Caleb, out there putting in the work, getting these mocks put together every single day, sometimes multiple in a day. A little bit of applause there. That never comes through great on the audio, but that is okay. But let's get into this one. I'm going to hit start, and I'm going to be less dramatic about it this time because I know hopefully your audio is all off for the board.
Up.
Go. I'm good.
That was close, boys.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm trying to save you guys the hassle. So we got the Waffle Hauser on the clock at pick one, makes the right decision and gets Caleb Williams. Chris, I'm assuming, is going to take his 101 from the last draft and Marvin Harrison, unless he wants to get cute. Who knows? But either which way, Blake, one of our patrons, shouting out. We ran 3 to 4 mocks last night. And we got two scheduled for immediately after. We got a startup mock and I think another mock of some other variety, starting right after the live stream. So if you want to get in on those, get some ADP, get some draft action in you instead of joining your 5th startup of the offseason already. Just get some mock drafts, in you, and go from there. But shout out Blake, shout out all the patrons. I got some eventually, maybe between the next mock and this one, I got some testimonials I'd like to share from our Discord group, showing a lot of love to us yesterday, and appreciate the heck out of that. So we see Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors come off the board, and then Mike, you were at the 104. What are you doing?
This pick is on the block. Come get it. I know what I got, so no low balls. Honestly, depending on what my team looks like, I feel like I really want Brock Bowers here. I feel like it's a little bit too early, but in a super flex league. But that being said, if I had the 104 and I wanted Brock Bowers, I would look to trade back a pick or two and get some additional draft capital. Obviously, if the person that I was trading with, I assume, did also not want that player. But that being said, I'm going to take my quarterback one in this draft, and that is Drake May. Caleb Williams, I understand everyone's saying it's the right choice. 31 fumbles in 3 years. Not good, Bob.
Not good. It's okay. Could be worse.
But that is concerning for me, though, however. But I do like Drake May. He's a little more athletic than you would expect. He just looks like a big 6'5" statue back there. He can move pretty good. He's got some decent wheels on him. So Drake May, 104 all day from me.
All right. Then we see Jaden Daniels. We got Joe Maiden up at the 1-6. And then I'm going to be left with whoever's left basically at the top tier at the 107. But I do think we had Noah, our boy, one of our up and coming risers in our community or our team, I guess you could say, one of our big analytics guys, has some things to say. Maybe I'll bring that up with what's on the board. Maybe some reasoning not to draft Brock Bowers is maybe a thought, especially that early is the thought process. And I did this the other day and shocked some people, but either which way, excited to see what Joe Main does here. If he does draft Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze, he's clearly watching. So he probably heard to basically draft Rome Odunze here and leave Brock Bowers for me. But that is a-okay.
Just so you can draft Troy Franklin over him?
Yeah, maybe. Hey, I think you were in that draft. Were you not?
I was.
You were. That was a crazy draft. We got some shenanigans in that one. I tell you what.
That draft was a little interesting.
Yeah, a little interesting to say the least. Joe Maiden thinking about this one.
I do want to say here, Yoda is saying that May had more fumbles. As per PFF, Caleb Williams 31, Drake May 10, and that's in 3 years. So I don't. Just going off what this show.
So I am at the 107, and Brock Bowers is here, and he is the last of this tier. And I think there is discussions to be had, more than there have been at least, that Brock Bowers, if nothing else, should be in his own tier at the 107. And this is because of the fact that when you look at the comparison of early tight ends compared to late tight ends, tight ends break out all over the place. They don't need to be a first round pick. But when you look at wide receivers, the earlier they're drafted has a direct correlation with their breakout, or if they break out at all. Whereas later on for wide receivers, it's kind of a dead zone, whereas tight ends can, like I said, break out anywhere. I am going to take Brock Bowers here because I think he's fine in his own tier at the 1-7. I would not take him before then. He's the last of that top 7 for me. He's going to be in his tier all by his lonesome. But I tell you what, I'm going to be thinking about that pick a lot if I have it anywhere. I think I have it in one draft where I'm at the 107. So I'm going to have to be possibly faced with that decision. Who knows? But we see Brian Thomas go off the board, so Nate can't draft him here. I'm assuming he's got Bo Nix in his sights at the 110. And
Nate.
The prophecy has been foretold. Bo Nix is on the board here. What do you got, Nate?
Yeah, as much as I love Ladd McConkey and also Jonathan Brooks, 2 other guys I would consider here. As long as Bo Nix gets the draft capital I expect him to, I think he's going to be a top 20 pick, quite honestly. I think he's going to probably fall in somewhere around like 15-ish. And as long as that happens, he's basically an auto draft for me in the second half of the first round because we know how valuable quarterbacks are. And I really do believe in Bo Nix. And, I'm going to bring up the NFL stock report again with Trevor Sakema and Connor Rogers. Bring that back up because they did a 2-round mock the other day. And they actually mocked Bo Nix to the Broncos, going over there with Sean Payton. And that would be just a lovely landing spot for him, I think. As much as that offense has had struggles over the past couple of years, we saw what Drew Brees obviously did with Sean Payton. Bo Nix has been compared a little bit to Drew Brees because of his accuracy and ability to, be safe with the ball. I think that would be a really fun combination.
I agree. I like that pick a good bit. And I like the spot, and I see him as a first-round talent. We got to touch back on this. Love Bowers at 107. Don't like the hate. There's no hate here. I love Brock Bowers. He is a generational prospect as if there ever was one. But you have to think about the level of talents where you're able to get them. And that's the game we're playing. If I can draft a tight end that's possibly just as likely to be as good as Brock Bowers later, but I have to draft I can draft Troy Franklin, I can draft Brian Thomas, whoever it is, compared to the other tight end later, like I said, or the wide receiver that would be later, a lot less likelihood that wide receiver is going to break out. I'm just saying there's a discussion to be had. Not that, F Brock Bowers, he should be a second round pick. That's not where I'm at. But and I do think, he's probably drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft, worst top 15. And, has, like I said, the generational production profile, all of the things, great. But fact of the matter is, I can draft a tight end later, probably that is, with the NFL landscape at tight end. The people were saying the same thing about Kyle Pitts. I know they're not the same prospect, but people were saying the same thing about Kyle Pitts 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Just saying there needs to be discussion and some thought process behind just Brock Bowers good, draft him. So we had a discussion. That was it. To wrap up the first round, we went Jonathan Brooks. Braylon Allen getting into the first round.
Yeah, how about that?
Go Tom Sobieski. Shout him out.
I love saying that last name, don't you?
I just love that I was able to get it right live on camera. So then we got, after butchering it 3 or 4 times before then. But then we have Bucky Irving. Keon Coleman at 2-2 again. At least he's consistent there.
That he is.
Trey Benson, Xavier Worthy. Mike, you picked up Xavier Worthy. Do you want to talk about that before we see Ladd McConkey falling, quote unquote, into the mid-second?
I do want to say I hate Brock Bowers, and here's why. He has a similar last name to me. I have no S on the end of my last name, and now people will butcher my last name because things like that happen. No, I don't hate Brock Bowers. I think he's fantastic. Trey Benson was going to be my pick. And Devin, I don't know if it's Devin or Devon. It's Devin. It's Devin if that's what you don't want it to be because you sniped me. Because I wanted Trey Benson right there. But I like Xavier Worthy. I like this guy a lot. My wife chiming in. Hi, sweetie. Can you please keep Cora out of here? Thank you. Yeah, Xavier Worthy. I just think he could really take it from anywhere on the field. I love this guy. Super excited to get him at the 204. I thought about Ladd McConkey, but screw your ADP Dynasty Rewind. I'm going with the guy I like a little bit better. And then Ladd goes at the 205.
Yeah, got to keep that ADP tight. So, hey, I'm on the clock. I got to think about who I'm going to pick here. I was taken aback by the Xavier Worthy pick.
You don't like Xavier Worthy?
No, I do like him. I was listening to you talk about him. So now I got to figure out who I want to pick. You guys talk about something. Anything.
All right. Well, I will talk about. I'm not going to talk about Ladd McConkey anymore because that would be too much. But Xavier Worthy, he had such an incredible freshman season. And I think I fell into something that happens sometimes with guys who pay attention to college football. And we get to watch these guys for years. Xavier Worthy had such a good freshman year, and then he was not able to surpass that in his sophomore and junior year. And that kind of soured him for me, which is really not fair because he set the bar so high his freshman year that I kept that bar and moved it up every single year thinking he could improve. And maybe he didn't show statistical improvement, but he certainly improved over those 3 years. And because he didn't show statistical improvement, myself and some other people who've been watching for a while were like disappointed, even though we're watching an absolute stud play wide receiver. And I've had to kind of come to terms with that and be aware enough to push myself and challenge myself to not kind of get stuck in, hey, what I've been looking at for the past 3 years is a little bit of a blank slate now, going into the NFL draft. What does Xavier Worthy bring to the table? I had him behind Adonai Mitchell for a while there, and I have him back to being pretty much at the same spot, just kind of depending on play style. But I do want to just mention that about Xavier Worthy because I was kind of stuck in that mindset of, hey, he hasn't improved really since his freshman year, but that's just because his freshman year was so good.
Yeah. And yeah, we talked about that a little bit, and that's part of what got me to kind of come back around and be like, he did have really good numbers pretty much his entire career.
Yeah.
So it's like, how high do you want him to go? So many people would be jealous of his college career. Brian Thomas, one of them,
Absolutely.
a guy who had just over 300 yards his first 2 years, finally broke out in year 3. He would have loved to look at having Xavier Worthy's numbers the entire course of his career. Maybe not the drops as much, but with the drops too, there are a lot. But you also have to remember he was targeted a ton.
He was 335 targets in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, bringing up his freshman stats real quick, 62 receptions, 981 yards, 12 touchdowns. That's 15.8 yards per reception at over 100 targets. Like for a freshman playing for Texas in the Big 12 at the time. And like, that's really impressive.
Yeah. Nate, you're on the clock, just so you know. I didn't want to burn your entire clock time. So,
well, thank you. Well, if you want to go ahead and talk about your pick while I make my pick.
Here comes Marshawn Lloyd.
I think that's where we're going too. I went Jalen Polk. This is, kind of the range I'm willing to draft him in. I got him at the early third last time. Take him in the mid second here. I think right now I'm kind of in the middle of a big tier. So it's almost, as before things get sorted, before we get draft capital and things like that, all the athletic testing in the books, I'm happy taking him here. This is one of my, I prefer him over Mitchell. Another guy I just haven't been able to really get into at this point. Is what it is. Don't have anything super negative about him. Just don't have anything I really like about him. But I'd really like Jalen Polk. I like his hands, like we discussed. He'll fight a dude. Love the physicality all around. So that is that. Nate, you went on brand. You and Marshawn Lloyd at 210. Want to talk about it a little bit?
I can talk about Marshawn Lloyd again. Yeah, sure. He had a great Senior Bowl. He was the running back of the week for the national team, as voted on by the American team defense. Yeah, I love Marshawn Lloyd. I think that's well documented here.
Bob, can I just touch on I think where you drafted Jalen Polk, that will be closer to what his final ADP will be as opposed to what the last draft was. And I could foresee it coming up a little higher too. I think people are going to start catching on pretty soon.
Yeah. I agree as well. So we get to round out the third round. Again, I keep talking about the first round. Get to round out the second round with Devontae Walker, Ray Davis, Blake Corum, Audric Esme. Nice little running back run here. Full pun intended before we get to Mike's pick here at 3-4. What are you thinking? What are you looking to do here?
I know exactly what I'm thinking, but Devin's been sniping me all day here. I'm not saying a word until he makes his pick. I'm taking Xavier Legette, Devin. That's who I was planning on taking if you wanted to snipe me again. So I got a couple guys in the queue. I do want to just touch on Dylan Lobb real quick. Every time I saw his last name on the back of his jersey, and he sniped me again. I didn't even.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I bet that's who he's going after too.
I kept calling him Dylan Lube, so expect me to butcher that name throughout the draft process. You know what, Devin, I'm really not a fan of you right now, if I can just be completely honest. But all right. Well, it is super flex. So, and he's going to get second round draft capital to the Minnesota Vikings. So, I'm
In
going
this
to
perfect world.
take Michael Penix Jr. at the 304.
In purple.
In reality, I think we all foresee Michael Penix Jr. being a starting quarterback. He's going to at least get a shot at some point in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think we got right now, February 4th, we can all agree on that. So the 304 to get a guy who you could probably either start for a few years, or if you don't like him and you have a bevy of quarterbacks, you could move him on for something else that you prefer more. I thought about Xavier Legette there, honestly, but I think Xavier Legette is a guy that you could probably end up trading into the back end of the third round at this point when people saw that he was only 6'1", which was a huge knock on him. And the fifth-year breakout, I think scares people as well.
The fifth-year breakout should be more concerning to you than the 6'1" versus 6'3". I'm sorry. Like, I know he's not this, super size speed freak that everybody wanted, but I put that up there already.
I was looking at the draft board. Sorry,
I already got his roses.
I wanted to point at it,
but that should be your biggest concern with Xavier Legette is the fifth-year breakout, not the 2-inch difference in size that we all thought. He was still came in at similar weight, I believe. So I mean, he's still the chonky boy everybody wanted, but he's not stretched out 2 more inches.
AJ Brown is 6 foot 225. Xavier Legette is 6 foot 1, 225. He's still got really good size.
I'm not
got really good size, but he's not like like we're not necessarily comparing him to AJ Brown. They're comparing him to like DK Metcalf, like that crazy size speed combination, like freak of nature. He's absolutely really athletic, but he's just not that like rare specimen, maybe.
Is Devin in the next draft? Because I don't think I want to play with him anymore. I'm not gonna lie. It's 2 snipes in a row.
Make sure you're behind or ahead of him this time. That's all. All right, I'm going to take Brendan Rice off the board here since Jacob Cowling is taken from me. That's okay. But Brendan Rice, somebody I think we definitely need to go and look into more if we haven't already. Somebody who showed well at the Senior Bowl was constantly talked about in a good light, very physical. You got to see him go up and, I believe it was in the Thursday practice, the last day of practice that they televised, went up and just grabbed a couple, moss people, as they like to say, as the youths like to say. Showed a lot of physicality and decent enough route running too. And I think that's something that, I think that maybe people weren't expecting out of somebody who is a little larger than, a lot of the smaller wideouts that we like to see now. I think he's like 6'1", 213 or something like that is what he came in at. So he's a little bigger. So you like to see some competent route running out of those guys that aren't just going to go up and catch it. Ben Sinnott, love that pick, Caleb. Good pick. Shout out to you, Nate. I hope you were looking to draft him, and now you're sad because you can't.
He wasn't my queue, but I'm going to actually draft the guy we were just talking about. I'm going to draft Xavier Legette because it's kind of ridiculous that he's here still at the 310. I think he's an incredible value here. I have him pegged at this point right now, kind of like a late second, early third, is because of the upside that he brings to the table. 6'1", 225, as we talked about. He's got strong hands. His hands did come in small though. I don't know if you guys saw that. Came in under 9 inches.
Oh, he's done. He's done.
And I don't want to say that his measurables just continue to disappoint me, but they kind of did. Especially for like a big guy with what I consider strong hands when you watch him on film, but like strong 8-inch hands. Like it's not quite as exciting as strong 10-inch hands, All
right, so hold on.
The size of the hands, the motion of the hands. Okay.
What we're learning is that this class is way different, and Nate's a size queen. That's what we're learning about these players here. And you know what else? I want to say one more thing about Xavier Legette.
Takes every single inch of it.
Sorry, I had to turn my volume up a little bit. Watch what you say on the show. I will make a sound drop out of it.
But he's still a really good wide receiver on film. You watch this year. The 5th round breakout is intriguing in kind of a negative way. But like I said, like you watch the film and you see a good wide receiver. He's got his route running down. He's got strong hands. He can play through the catch. He's very physical. He's physical at his release. He's physical through his routes. He's physical through the catch. I mean, he's really trying hard every single. Just
10-inch hands.
This is terrible, John. Chill out.
I love that, John. That's a great comment.
That got me. Yeah. So, but seriously, at the 310, It's too low for a
Good
guy
pick.
like him
Good
with his
pick.
potential.
Yeah, it's a good pick there. I think, yeah, like Mike touched on earlier, with instead of going with Leggett, like I
I mean,
said, I
how'd you
think you
go
should,
Brendan Rice over Xavier Leggett?
because I believe in the younger prospect who didn't take 5 years to break out and only broke out because there was nothing else there going on. And we weren't expecting Brendan Rice to be 6'3". So that's clearly the issue. And he doesn't have baby hands as far as I know. So
Actually, I can tell you, I got the weigh-ins here. Brendan Rice, how big is his hands?
you heard it here from Blake. Shout out one of our patrons. Size does matter, boys.
I heard
Brendan
the big
Rice.
ones hurt, Blake. That's not true.
Oh,
Jeez. Oh man.
all right.
So funny.
So Xavier Leggett, 8.9-inch hands. And Brendan Rice over here coming in at 6'2", 212, and 9.3-inch hands.
Oh, monster.
He's got 0.4 inches on Leggett.
That's all it takes. It's all it takes.
This is taking
The
a
difference.
quite an unexpected twist. I will say that.
This is what's so special about live streams.
Sure.
This is what you get.
Oh my god!
Sure.
For the record, this is a lot what Nate and I's Rewind After Dark Patreon show is like. It's pretty similar. What you get.
All right. Catching up on the draft now. So after Leggett, Tiny Leggett goes Michael Pratt, everybody's favorite late round sleeper quarterback, Johnny Wilson, Spencer Rattler, Jermaine Burton, Jamari Thrash, Jace McClellan, Will Shipley, and then to be sniped at the 4-6. We'll see what happens here with Joe Maiden. Goes Ricky Pearsall, which I kind of thought would be on the board. I'm going to look to the tight end room again. This time, instead of going McLaughlin, I'm going to go Dolan Holker, who was, like I said, incredible producer in his final season and had, when you look at the raw numbers, and this is why you can't just look at raw numbers. When you peel things back and you look at like efficiencies, incredibly efficient with his yards per catch, mobility after the catch, creating yards after the catch, yards after catch per reception, a thing we like to look at here. And missed tackles force, only one tight end in the class had more missed tackles force this season, and that was Brock Bowers. So just something to think about. He can create for himself, and he can create some big plays. Chef, speaking the truth here, yes. Hit that like button. It'll make you more beautiful inside and out. I've never heard that as a reasoning, but it is also a great way to support the channel and the brand and everything we got going on here. Show some love to that thumbs up button. And if you want more questions answered and things like that, sure to hit the like, and as I mentioned, but also hit that super chat to make sure that your questions get answered in the comments. We always get a lot. So, that's also a good way to just support the brand. Another great way, just get it on patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Come hang out with us anytime, free week on us. So you get that free week. Check it out, see how you like it. A lot of nice things being said in the Discord I will get to later. I'll pub out later. But with that said, Nate, you're up. What are you going with at the 410 here?
Yeah, so here at the 410, I think we got a good little value here. And I'm going to actually pick up a guy I haven't drafted yet. I'm going to pick up Ainias Smith.
Ooh, okay. I see you.
Who was actually at the Senior Bowl. And a lot of teams like him because he's got kick return experience. He's got running back experience. He actually came to Texas A&M as a running back originally. He was a running back for like his first 2 years, kind of played a little bit of slot receiver while he was doing that, and then ended up transitioning completely to slot receiver his junior year. Unfortunately, had an injury last year, so he didn't declare for the NFL draft. Had a pretty solid season this year as Texas A&M struggled, and then declared for the NFL draft. So he's got kick return experience. He's good after the catch because of that. He's a great little slot receiver. He's only like 5'9", so the size is a little bit smaller, but playing out of the slot, he's quick. He's efficient. He doesn't really have to worry about his size being too much of an issue. So Ainias Smith, he didn't really show out at the Senior Bowl, but everything he did well. He's kind of going to be probably more of a role player at the next level. But if we're looking for guys that can create yards, and if he's in a place where they don't have a slot receiver currently, he can definitely end up, playing the role of a wide receiver 3 in an offense as that slot. So depending on the situation that he goes into, he might be a guy I might be targeting here in the 4th round. So I wanted to pick him up now so I could talk about him.
There you go. Love it. So we wrap up this draft. Catching up from Dolan Holker, we see Dylan Laub, Frank Gore Jr., and Ainias Smith, as Nate beautifully touched on, Cade Stover and Malik Washington. Funny way to spell Taj Washington, but he is not in the sleeper board yet. I can't wait till he is, but what's that?
I said, come on. So you know what, Sleeper? If anyone here knows anyone that works at Sleeper, hit me up. I'll put these guys in for you. Show me how to do it. Throw me a little bit of dough, and I'll get it set up for you. All right. I'll even put their pictures in there. You click on these guys, there's no pictures. Come on.
For all of the folks out there that are hoping that IDP players get added anytime soon, guys, they don't even have all the offensive players in yet. So you're going to be waiting. One downside, one unfortunate side of these at this point. So there you go. But anything else you guys want to touch on with this draft while I get the next one kind of up and filled?
I do. I took Jace McClellan here at the 4-4. I feel like he's a guy who's not getting talked about a ton. We talk about Will Shipley and how he's a good receiving back. Jace McClellan can do the same thing. I actually think he's a little bit more of a powerful, stronger runner than Will Shipley. He's going to be a guy, he's not really laterally that great, but he's going to move a pile a little bit more. He's going to break by break tackles, I mean he's going to run through contact better than a guy like Will Shipley. We're talking a guy here who's always been overshadowed at Alabama by, Brian Robinsons and Najee Harris, and Alabama always has that really good, higher profile running back. Jason McClellan really never was that guy. But if there's a guy that could be drafted in the NFL in the 5th or 6th round, can make it on a roster as a PPR back and a good backup, at the 4-4, Jason McClellan is not a bad pick at all. And I kind of like him a little bit better than Will Shipley or Dylan Lube at this point. I'm just saying it. And you know what? D-Man, I wonder the same thing. Does anybody know if Jamari Thrash is James Thrash's son? James Thrash, former Washington Redskin and Philadelphia Eagle?
I don't know, but I can tell you in just 1 second.
Yeah.
Nate will
I always wondered that,
research.
and I never looked into it, so.
All right.
Also, I thought Frank Gore Jr. looked really good at the Shrine Bowl this past week. He showed some really good bursts. There was one run specifically where he just bounced off a couple guys, had a really nice cut to the outside, and took it to the house. So kind of excited to see where he goes in the draft.
He's not related to the other Thrash.
Okay, now we know.
Rip. No Nepo babies here.
And I know we saw earlier someone was asking about McConkey if his dad was a wide receiver for the Giants. He is not related to that McConkey either. So,
Bob, which is our next one that we're heading to?
One quarterback?
It'll be one quarterback.
Woo!
3.0.
Chris will be so happy.
I think.
Is Chris in that one? He's going to be thrilled.
All right, get this back up.
And also, you want to talk about supporting the brand. There's another thing that you could do for free. Go on Apple Podcasts and give us a nice 5-star review. That helps people see the podcast itself. And like I said, you can do that. I
appreciate that.
For $0. And it makes Nate really happy when we get a good review.
It does.
Nate,
can you review on Spotify? Is that a thing?
I don't know if you can or not, but you can follow us on Spotify. If
you can leave a rating. No reviews yet.
We'll take a rating for sure.
Nate, I have a favor to ask you. Would you like to trade draft positions with me in this next draft? Because Devin's before me. Yeah, I don't know if I can do this again.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? No, it's okay. Let's let it go. He's not going to best me 2 drafts in a row.
Nate, quick, go back to 4. Mike just put you in the position where he can snipe you now. So good move, Nate. You were
not worried about people sniping me.
Okay.
I'm gonna win no matter what, Bob.
Joe.
Oh, here we go.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted,
no
Joe.
Matter what.
Make sure we're sniping Nate here. All right. Any questions?
I was smart this time. Last time we did a 1 quarterback mock, I put myself at 5. Didn't realize I was at the 108 of 1 quarterback drafts. Now I put myself at the 104 to make sure I get in that top tier. And I know, Bob, you and Zach were actually talking about this on a video I was watching the other day. It was whatever moves to make video you guys did most recently. You guys were talking about different tiers in the rookie draft and how knowing them ahead of time can really help you out. Because, like, I have a league where I have the 108 right now. I want to see if I can move up to the 107 for like a 3rd round pick right now or something like that. Like, how cheaply can I just move up 1 pick? Because someone else can be like, oh, I just get a free pick and I get to basically just move down 1 spot, not realizing that, hey, you move down from the 107 to the 108 and you're getting a vastly different player than you're getting at the 107. So knowing those tiers this far ahead of time can really help you get an advantage.
Yeah, I love that. Great add-on point, Nate. Love that very much. So we're waiting on this to fill up. Anything else we got going on right now? Mike, go ahead. Talk it up.
But I was just saying there was 3 more.
Oh, we need 3 more. So patrons out there who may be watching,
Come
or
on.
if maybe you want to get in on this as well, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Head on over there, get in for free today, 7-day free trial. Another thing we got going right now, we don't have a ton popping up on the channel, but roster reviews right now are popping right now. So for sure, that's all of these links and everything we talk about in the YouTube description box below. You can go thumb through there, check out what you like. Easy,
Also,
quick links to where you need to go. So
if you were considering getting a roster review done or signing up for the Patreon, head on over now. Friday, 2 days ago, we did Freebie Friday, so you could see a roster review that Bob did recently. Go ahead, watch it, and then when you sign up for Patreon, Bob, do you get a discount code for the
you get a discount code that I need to set up for
the
February
roster
at this point,
reviews,
but
and
yes, you do get a
discount
discount
code on merch. I mean, we keep hooking you guys up. It's just a little bit, but what's money, right? Come on.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
I want to get to this question real quick. Someone asked the 107 plus the 111 for the 104 in one quarterback. So actually, taking a look at the draft board right now that we're about to do, I think the 107 and the 111 for the 104 is a fair trade. As a trade, I would make to move up to the 104, but only if I could use Brock Bowers, because I can't guarantee myself that I'm going to get one of Neighbors or a Dunze there. So if I have another tight end that I already like, if I have a Kyle Pitts or a TJ Hawkinson or a Trey McBride, then I'm not sure if I'm willing to make this deal, because if I get stuck with Brock Bowers, is it really the best thing for my team? I know, right? Will you put him in your flex? That's really that tough. But I think if you can use Brock Bowers, then this is a really good trade, because you're going to win out no matter which way.
Sure. Yeah. Like that a lot. And I tend to agree all around, Nate. And we are waiting on this to fill up. We still need 3 more spots. Let me pop
2 more.
2 more now. One more. Jeez, we're flying. Do I even need to put in there? Do I even need to put in the thing that we're filling up? I know the second I post in there that
Devin moved back. He's not going to snipe you anymore.
He's putting himself in position to be sniped now. I'll put up the board. All right, I'm going to give patrons just a couple more seconds here. Otherwise, I'm going to drop this in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, first come, first serve.
First come, first serve. Get to hang out with us. Okay, I'm going to get the link. Guys, I got the link. You are running out of time. Paste. And the link is dropped. First come, first serve. It's in there. Get in on the draft quick while you still can. Get the draft with us. Get some bonus. And we are in there. Shout out Phil357 shouting out. And we are going to get right into this. Boys, turn your notifications off. All your sounds are off. And your ear holes are open and ready to get into this thing. I'm going to start immediately. Already all set. All boys good?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right. Good deal. We are starting this draft. Chris. Whose was that?
That was me. Sorry, I forgot I had that one on the board. God. I saw it and I was like, I should
livid. I was like, oh man, could you not? That might get us demonetized, Mike. Oh. Silly.
Get a grip,
but is what it is, I guess. Chris, you're up at the 1-1 in your territory, your neck of the woods.
It would have been funny if you would have taken a quarterback there. Just throwing it out there.
No, it wouldn't have. I thought it was a 1 quarterback. Thought it was the first to get a quarterback wins. All right, so I went Neighbors at the 102. Joe Maiden is behind me in this draft, instead of trying to snipe me throughout the entire draft. But here we go. Wonder who goes at the 1-3. Nate, you're at the end of that cutoff, that first cutoff. So you're going to be left with the leftovers, I guess, of the top tier. Which
I'm fine with that.
Not a bad place to be in 1 quarterback. I think we have some pretty, good talent at the top where you're pretty happy with what you land. Obviously, it'd be nice to get Harrison, but you got pretty good talent following up the board.
Yep.
So let's talk about some 1 quarterback draft strategy, boys. What are we looking to get out of 1 quarterback drafts? What are we trying to get done in our drafts outside of the normal, maybe in a 1 quarterback? Nate, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we're definitely building around wide receivers, like we've talked about a lot this offseason. We've talked about it a lot just for like dynasty startups, building around wide receivers. And there's always that idea, oh, do you zig, do you zag when the strength of a draft class is one thing or everyone's doing one thing? Do you do something different? Do you be contrarian? And I think here you just lean into the strengths of the class. You lean in and grab your wide receivers, especially in one quarterback where, your quarterbacks aren't as valuable. If you're not playing in a premium, your tight ends probably aren't as valuable as well, especially now that there's like 12 of them that you can actually start in your lineup, not just like 5 like there used to be. So it's wide receivers and running backs. And in this draft class, especially in the first round, it's wide receivers. So I think, this is a draft where you're not really trying to be contrarian. You're just kind of leaning into the strengths of each class. So like the wide receivers in the first round, the running backs in the second round, and then, maybe it is the tight ends in the third round or running back again in the third round, tight end in the fourth round. I think there's just a lot of options in this class because of the strengths in the wide receiver position and then the value at the running back position. And with that being said, I'm going to pick up my value. I love values. A lot of people love choice. A lot of people love the ability to choose. And for the ability to choose, oftentimes you have to pay up. You have to, get a higher pick, or you have to pay to be able to make the choices you want. Like they say, beggars can't be choosers. I'm not a beggar, but I'm more than happy to pick up the great value that falls down the board. I like being at the end of tiers. I like being at like the 104 here. I like being at the 107 in super flex drafts. Now, if that's my pick, I just got it no matter what. Of course, I'd rather be the 105 or the 104. But if I'm trading around and I'm targeting picks, I'm targeting these picks because I'm okay with picking whatever comes up cheapest because I'm still getting a player in that tier that I really believe in. So I think it's a great year to be value hunting in rookie drafts.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always a great year to be value hunting in rookie drafts. Personally, I love the concept of being at the end of the tier. We talk about it a lot. Being at the top of a tier, the only benefit you get to pick your poison, pick your preference out of the tier. But in reality, if we're all valuing players similarly, again, why tier-based drafting is so important. If you have your tier set up to be this next 5 chunks of players, you can move from the top pick back to the 5th for very good value. And when you can do that, and, we always talk about building that asset pool, building your value bank, whatever the case is, that's how you really can build monster teams, is when you can get above board of your God-given draft capital, the one pick in each round that you're given by sleeper, however you want to look at it, I guess.
Sleeper given draft capital.
Yeah, sleeper given draft capital. Either which way, but that is that. So good ways to get ahead of things. So with that said, we have Caleb Williams go off at the 1-5. Mike, you go Brian Thomas at the 1-6. Jonathan Brooks 1-7. Troy Franklin 1-8. Lad McConkey. The McConkey Talk is live.
He's back
here at the Dynasty Rewind at the 1-9 here as we get to the 1-10. So Mike, touch on your pick of Brian Thomas. Yeah. If you feel the need to, or anything else that's happened in the draft so far, feel free.
We talked about him a bunch today. Just line up a few spots from 1-8 to 1-6 in this one quarterback league. And Joseph, one quarterback dynasty leagues are not for vegans. I'm sure everyone in here is carnivorous as well. I like what I'm seeing so far. And, I just want to say, some people will say that in a one quarterback league, you shouldn't be taking a quarterback in the first round. And I disagree with that. If that's what your team needs and you feel that is the best player on the board at your draft spot, you absolutely can take a quarterback. For example, I've said this before, when Trevor Lawrence came out, I took him at the 107 in my one quarterback dynasty league, Joey, and he was the best player on the board. It might have been the 108 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was like in the middle-ish of that first round, and he made the most sense for my team. Anything else would have just been forcing it. So I said, screw it. I'm going to take what is the quote unquote generational talent that we thought at that time. And my team is better off today because of it. So I don't hate it, but then we keep moving along. See if you're worthy at the 110.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like
one quarterback, I get it.
Yeah.
And then we see a second.
Another first round quarterback. See?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not surprised to see the top guys go off. Caleb maybe feels a little early, but I get it. Like you said, Mike, with, if you need the quarterback, if you really believe that Caleb Williams is the generational talent that everyone's propping him up to be. And I like Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that to, be kind of tongue in cheek about it or anything like that. But, if you believe in the talent, sure. I don't hate it one bit. I like that 111 spot a little bit better. And Nate, something we've talked about too, with once that 1-4 hits, we do feel like in one quarterback leagues, running backs are going to come up the board and slot in there, because we know people love running backs. It's not going to change as much as we see the larger scope of the dynasty landscape changing with running backs. People are just still going to draft them early. They still see them as the highest producers, the highest upside, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, they're going to get drafted probably earlier than they should. And we see Brooks go 1-7. So,
yeah,
but
I don't mind that at all. I like Brooks at the 107, honestly. It's going to depend on draft capital and landing spot, just like any other running back, and especially in this draft class. But I keep going back to what I've seen with the Dan Brugler mock draft, and I eventually will call back other mock drafts, but it's still early on in draft season. So the second round of the Cowboys, obviously, if something like that happens, we're going to see him at the 107.
Yeah. Yeah. I think anybody getting, the Chargers, the Cowboys right now, if they land running back anywhere in the offseason or the draft, whether it's free agency or the draft, I think those positions skyrocket. So I went Bucky Irving, taking the second running back off the board at the 2-2. Pretty low on the board. Love that value though. Staying him after Adonai Mitchell, which feels early, but maybe not. I don't know. But again, not that high on Mitchell. So, but Bucky Irving, great receiving running back. Also a running back who I believe is good between the tackles and as just a pure runner in general. And a guy who I think can create space while he's working. So we're at the 2-3. Joe Maiden, hope I sniped you since you were trying to snipe me the whole time. And then we got Nate at the 2-4. Excuse me. Nate, what are you thinking here? What are you thinking
Can I
about the
just
board
point
here?
something out real quick before Nate talks? Keon Coleman in a super flex league, 2 mock drafts, the 202. Now we're in a 1 quarterback league, and he has yet to be picked.
Who's that?
Keon Coleman.
Sure.
I just think it's odd that, the value is supposed to be better for the other skill positions in 1 quarterback league, and everyone's like,
Nate's going to pick him now.
You might. Sorry, but I didn't mean to go ahead.
You're right. No, that's a good point, Nate. Or Mike. Sorry. Good point.
Yeah. So here I am looking at the board, and Jaden Daniels is somewhere on here. There he is. I'm looking at Jatavion Sanders, but I already have Brock Bowers, so it seems kind of silly. But if I'm Michael Bauer, then I just draft 2 tight ends, and it's cool.
Draft 4.
I'm also looking at Keon Coleman here. I do think he is in the wheelhouse of this value pick, especially in first round. First 1 quarterback. Also like Marshawn Lloyd here. I've been picking him up in the late second of Superflex, so that puts him about here value-wise in 1 quarterback as well. And then I think Jaden Daniels, if you need a quarterback, this is where you could pick up a Jaden Daniels early second. Sure. Why not take the upside on a guy like Jaden Daniels if you need a quarterback? In my team, though, I don't need a quarterback because I almost always have plenty of quarterbacks in 1 quarterback leagues because I'm so used to playing Superflex. So I want to go Marshawn Lloyd here, but I've gone Marshawn Lloyd in both drafts so far. So I'm going to go Keon Coleman, who I think does have a ton of talent, is a raw talent still, but he's continuing to improve, year in and year out. He was able to create a good amount of yards after the catch this year. I believe it was over 6. I have to pull that up real quick, but it was his best for his career this year with yards after the catch per reception. So, seeing some improvement there, because that was one of the big things coming into the year was, hey, Keon Coleman can make contested catches, but can he do anything after the catch? And yeah, he did have 6.3 yards after the catch per reception this year, which is a solid number. That's a good number, 6.3. So I think he's raw, but he's continuing to improve. He's a little inconsistent. But in the second round, especially in 1 quarterback, you're swinging for upside, and I think Keon Coleman has some of the best upside of anyone left on the board.
Yeah, I like the pick, Nate. I think it's good value. I think it's a good spot for him, where you're not super sold on the talent day 1, but clearly shows upside. I like the pick. So, Mike, you're up.
Yeah, Braylon Allen goes. I like that spot for Braylon Allen, and I like the fact that means that I get to take Trey Benson.
Sure.
And that him making it to me at the 2-6, I don't know. You would think, again, 1 quarterback, you would think he would have been up there a little bit more. And I I don't hate any of the running backs being drafted ahead of him in this mock. You can make a case for all of them, and to a point, I will agree with you. But I just love Trey Benson. I feel like there's been some disrespect on his name. I like his size, I like his speed, and a better receiver than I think people give him credit for as well, Bob. I don't know if you're. I think you and I don't have the prospect sheet up, but I think you and I are the bigger Trey Benson
I'm the
fans.
middleman. I'm the middleman.
I could bring it up right now and see. Let's see here. Yeah, Trey Benson, where you at? Yeah, I'm the highest, and then Nate's like, nah, screw him. An athlete.
Still a day 2 pick though. Still a day 2 pick though. He has man, so it's not that bad.
Yeah,
But
I'm a fan. I like him.
Yeah, he's all right. I think it's last year we had this term being thrown around with the wide receiver room that it was a flavor draft, and I think now it's that way with running backs, and we're gonna see players drafted landing all over the place, and I think at the end of the day, talent means a ton, but landing spot does too, and where these guys get drafted means a lot too. It shows how much opportunity they can get right away, not only with where they're drafted and how much the team will be incentivized to use them, but also just in the matter of who's in front of them. Is there anybody in front of them? That all plays in a landing spot. So we're going to see some interesting things as this running back class shakes out. I think there's still values to be had across the board, but after your pick, we have JT Sanders come off, Audric Estime, Jaden Daniels making an appearance, Xavier Leggett. We got Caleb, one of our Discord moderators, coming up. Shout out to Caleb there. And then we got Nate coming back in. Come back on whenever you're ready, Nathaniel. There you go.
Also, Bob, you had said about talent and opportunity. One of the things that we used to hear a lot on Twitter, now X, was talent over opportunity always. But if you don't get the opportunity to showcase your talent, what does it matter? If you're just buried on a depth chart somewhere, and I get, but I feel like sometimes a lot of stuff like that is people just fluffing up their own process. And listen, it's okay to admit when you're wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. The most important thing is if you're wrong, but you adjust and you win fantasy football games, isn't that really all that matters? Right?
Yeah.
To me,
fantasy points at the end of the day.
I want that money.
Being able to swallow the humble pill is big thing, adjusting your process as needed. But so we wrap up this end of the second round here with Roman Wilson nailed the round this time. Michael Penix coming off of the 212, Brandon Rice at the 3-1. Now I'm on the board. Who am I going to pick?
Bob is going to pick. Oh, I think I know where he's going.
Me likey some Marshawn Lloyd right now.
That's what I was doing.
I'm going to take Marshawn Lloyd here. Go 3-2. Long distance.
Oh, man.
This is for Jacob Cowing from last round. But I really liked his showing at the Senior Bowl. Looked like the best running back out there. Could not be tackled. I know they weren't, they're not putting out full effort necessarily to make tackles and things like that, but love the talent, light usage in college too, which is some may see as a knock because, he doesn't have these prolific rushing numbers. And, one of the things that, a detractor for me and one of the running backs that you guys like, and I haven't gotten into a ton of yet. I was just writing up his production profile yesterday for our upcoming draft guide. Keep posted on that. But Cody Schrader has had over 1,000 college touches. And that is the mileage on that guy. That's for the people who worry about that sort of thing. I somewhat do. I forget what running back it was, but they said that basically it's like you only got so many touches. And once you're done, you're just kind of done. And I'm not saying he's there yet, but something concerning for me, he was still able to pop off some good efficiency this year and whatnot. So I'm not saying he's cooked already, but just things to think about, especially with the draft capital you might be looking at. So
Adrian Peterson has entered the chat.
Is that who said that? Actually,
no, I'm just saying that was the guy that had it. Really, gotcha. Jay Naden? Really? Now you're sniping me.
long distance sniping.
I have an easy pick here. Easy pick. Now, I was hoping for Marshawn Lloyd, but I never actually expected Marshawn Lloyd because obviously I was considering him with the 204. But who I'm excited to pick up here in the third round, who I picked up in the third round many times before, and who also had a really good Senior Bowl, Ray Davis.
Sure.
Who is a complete running back
I just put him in my queue.
Mike is crumbling.
He is a complete running back. And the only knock I really have on Ray Davis
Tom,
is his
draft Ben
long
Sinnott.
speed.
Oh, that would have been Mike's
Close.
next pick, I bet.
But Ray Davis's long
Sorry.
speed, that is the biggest issue that he has. And at the end of the day, that isn't that big of an issue because he's doing just fine in the first 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. So sorry, he can't complete the 70, 80-yard rush touchdown, but he's going to be able to get you at least the 20, 30, which most NFL teams, that's all that's really going to matter. He can get those hard yards in the middle. You can feed him the ball. He is built. He is thick. I just really like Ray Davis and what he can bring to the table for a team and eat up a lot of volume. I don't know if he'll have a large volume role, but if he ever finds himself in that role, he can handle it. That's for sure.
I just want to say with the picks that went before me, this game's stupid and I don't want to play anymore.
Tom, I was saying Ben Sinnott, not Ben Sinnott.
Oh,
Probably got cut off in the discussion, but that would have been, I was hoping that would
You
be
can say Sobieski, but you can't say Sinnott.
it just didn't get out probably, or probably got cut off when I was saying Ben Sinnott. It probably got, between somebody talking.
It
I was
does sound
talking
like,
over
I
somebody
also
rudely.
thought you said Trey Benson. I was like, well, he's already gone.
I was
Yeah.
too busy having a meltdown, so I didn't hear much.
Either which way. But so Mike, you did go Jacob Cowing, which is a good pick, in my opinion.
I like Jacob Cowing, and the stats don't really tell the story of Jacob Cowing because this is a young man who had to adjust to some of the worst thrown balls I've ever seen in my entire life. And I thought to myself, why didn't he just transfer up somewhere? Well, Arizona was the transfer up for him.
Yeah,
I
he
believe
did.
he was either at like a JUCO or D2 school.
UTEP.
I don't know. UTEP.
UTEP.
Yeah. So that was the level up for him, and he still did it. He was still really productive, and I like Jacob Cowing a lot. I had thought about Thrash. I just thought the 3.6 was a little early for Thrash, honestly. But I'm happy with what I got though. Would have also been happy with anyone from the 3.2 to 3.5, but here we are.
Here we are. That was a good little run there, to be honest.
I like that.
The top of the third in one quarterback. And how often do you look at the top of the third in a one quarterback rookie draft and say, oh yeah, there's some nice players?
When you're a deviant like us, it's quite often.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, too funny. All right. So catching up on the board that little bit. Mike went Jacob Cowing. We see Jamari Thrash, Jalen McMillan, the funnest name to say in the entire class. Outside of Land McConkey, I guess that's a pretty fun name to say too. But Cade Stover, Jermaine Barton. We got Caleb on the clock here, rounding out the back half of the third. Boys, how are you feeling about this draft? How are you feeling about one quarterback drafts right now? Where are the values?
I'm feeling really good, to be
I like
honest.
it.
Yeah. Keon Coleman is not my usual pick in the second round, but like getting Bowers, having the end of that top tier, I think picking up not just Ray Davis, but also, you got Marshawn Lloyd, T. Sobey, got Blake Corum after me. There's running back value in the third round, which is just always a wonderful thing to see. If you have early thirds, late seconds, you can pick up relevant running backs this year, which is just honestly like a godsend to most of our teams.
You see what I do next round.
Whew. If there's any players you even want left,
Oh yeah,
we're gonna keep sniping you. Don't worry.
I'm all queued up, bud. We're good.
Do you
Caleb's
have
slacking
8 players queued up?
No, I have one. I have 2 actually, but I don't think anybody is going to.
I have
Heck of a
one
queue
player,
there,
and
Mike.
no one's gonna pick
Heck
up.
of a queue.
Doubt it. Oh, Caleb. You want me to do
Who
it?
should we give him? Who should we give him?
He's fired.
Give him Ricky. Let's give him Ricky for fun because it was the first one that came up. So that's okay.
Yeah, that was the
We'll
next
give
one.
him
on
this
my
one
queue.
mulligan. So there you go. That's who it should have been. Then we see Johnny Wilson, aka Hakeem Butler, come off at 312. I love with how much that comp has stuck over the course of the season. I comped that early 2023 college season, and it's reigned true. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we're at the top of the 4th round now. I'm not gonna say who I want to pick here because Chris is still on the clock, but I got some folks in mind for sure. So that you
Well, I guess some things can go unsaid. Bob.
Oh man, that one hurts. I don't think I've
Yep.
gotten a draft Ben Sinnott today, have I? I have to draft him earlier next
Benson?
time. Ben Sinnott.
Benson, it.
Ben Sinnott.
You
Um,
got to leave a space
That's right.
between Ben and
Holker.
Sinnott.
No,
It's still a good pick though. Dallin, is
Yeah.
it Dallin or Dalen? Dallin.
Dolan Holker.
I'm just gonna whatever. The guy from Colorado State. I'm just gonna go with that.
Looks like a
The
Viking.
tight end.
I like this dude. I wanna find some more to watch on him. So if you do cut ups on YouTube or anywhere and you have some Colorado State film, I would love to watch it. Please. Because I want to see what he's got going on.
Well, you can watch some Shrine Bowl tape. He was there.
Yes, he was. I did watch the Shrine Bowl.
He was used a good amount in the Shrine Bowl.
As much
He
as
was
I
a pretty
could.
popular target.
Ahead of
Had a bogus catch.
Yeah,
I don't
he
remember.
did. It's pretty impressive.
That was pretty bad.
Caleb says, my bad on the draft. He had some work stuff pop up out of nowhere. So
Caleb, are you telling me that you're putting your job in priority to this right now?
to this job that doesn't pay you anything, Caleb bogus. And Nate seems happy or he's sad. I can't. Oh, wait.
I am extremely upset.
I cannot handle this, Caleb.
I just got sniped in the 4th round, and I was going to pick up the
That is a good
greatest
pick.
value of picking up Bo Nix in the 4th round.
Yeah, great.
Well
pick,
done,
too.
Joe. Well done.
I mean, I thought this was going to be an easy pickup. I was like, everyone's forgotten about quarterback, and I'm about to pick up a 1st round quarterback.
Rip. We're all getting sniped.
Luckily, there's another 1st round quarterback on the board. I'll pick up JJ McCarthy.
Nice.
Oh,
I think if you can pick up, I'm out of focus.
you got a little blurry. You're good.
All right. If you can pick up a 1st round quarterback in the 4th round of your 1 quarterback drafts, that's got to be like an auto draft, because if any of these quarterbacks hit, you are flipping them. I mean, even without them hitting, I mean, just them starting, they're going to be worth more than a 4th round pick. So if you see these guys, any of these 6 guys, honestly, in the 4th round, you should be picking them up, even in 1 quarterback, I think.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I like the
It's
bonus.
just a value thing. You have to.
Yeah, but I went Dolan Holker, but that's okay. I thought about Bo Nix, but I kind of, in my brain, I'm like, he should be gone by now. And I just assumed he wasn't
Absolutely
on the board.
should have been gone.
But he's not. So, yeah, I agree. Especially one who has some mobility upside, too, with Bo Nix. You know, that's something we always talk about. We like to see. It doesn't, obviously not as much as Jaden Daniels or Drake May, but even though Drake May maybe gets tuned down in the NFL, maybe Daniels does to protect himself. But Bo Nix has some mobility, some wheels too that he can use and get some rushing touchdowns and whatnot and some rushing yardage. So after the quarterbacks, we see Anaya Smith, Dylan Johnson, Mike. First time we've seen him today, I think.
You're right.
Jace McClellan, Frank Gore, Will Shipley, Jaheim Bell, and Caleb hopefully making good on his pick here. And I wanted to auto him again. Before we wrap up this one, boys, what do we think about this draft before we kick to the next one? If we kick to the next one, drop in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Haven't heard a ton from you guys yet. I want to make sure you're still here with us. We were thinking about doing another one, but we want to hear from y'all if y'all want us to do another one. So drop in the comments, leave a like on the video, so on and so forth.
We'll do another one if we could do the timer quicker, just because, you know, at some point I do have to relieve my wife of her duties down there. You know, first time we've seen Dylan Johnson. You want to look for a guy that could be the next Brian Robinson. Here he is. He's a hard runner, very physical. Is he the fastest player? No. Is he the most dynamic? No. Is he effective? He absolutely is. And he played a couple years at Mississippi State in the air raid offense. So guess what? He knows how to catch the ball out of the backfield too. Didn't do it a lot at Washington. That's just not how their offense ran. They had 3 fantastic wide receivers out there. Why'd you throw to the running back? I like Dylan Johnson, and I think at the 4-6 could end up being fantastic value.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that Dylan Johnson, he hasn't really got a lot of hype since the playoffs when he was, talked about a good bit.
He's pretty banged up too.
But he was pretty banged up, but he still played through. It was very, very impressive. So he hasn't been talked a lot about because, the Senior Bowls happened and things like that. He's kind of been forgotten about. But if he comes back out and has a good combine, I think he's going to be popping up boards. I think he'll probably be looked at, as a pretty consensus 4th rounder, if not a 3rd rounder, because I think he's got that kind of potential, honestly. It's a good pick.
Thank you.
Waffle Houser, I agree. I think we need more likes.
Always need more likes.
I'm getting the next draft board started. How do you boys feel about doing a tight end premium super flex? We've gotten a couple requests for that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to share it in the Patreon group first.
1 minute timer.
We'll see what happens. I got 1.5, but I could always make it a minute. Let me, boys, I'm sorry.
I see a couple people asking about a startup mock.
Yeah.
There
is one
after this live stream, starting up as soon as we're done this live stream over in the Patreon. I don't know if there's any spots left. It's probably already full. But if you want to get involved in the next one, make sure you go sign up over there, Patreon/Dynasty Rewind. That is the place to be. And we're offering you that 7-day free trial. It's on us that first week. Check it out. See if you like it. If you don't like it, no skin off your back. You can head right back out. If you like it, we'd love you to stick around. So,
yes, 100%. And yeah, so I'm going to take this board away. I'll get the other one set up while that's filling in. So give me 2 shakes of the old sauce bottle here. Put us back in full screen. Boys, talk about the Senior Bowl. Talk about anything else we got going on here at the Rewind. What are you thinking?
Michael Bauer.
Michael Bauer is just about to step away to use the restroom real quick. So sorry.
I see that.
Sorry.
Nate, on you, no pressure.
No pressure. All right. Well, I'll talk about the Senior Bowl a little bit. So we've already kind of gone over a lot of the players in the Senior Bowl. But we haven't really gone over the running backs too much. And part of the reason, because there just wasn't a lot of running backs at the Senior Bowl this year. We had 7 running backs there. Unfortunately, Rasheen Ali did get hurt on the national team. So that left the national team with 3 running backs. They had Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State, who looked solid. We actually saw him go in the last mock draft. They had Marshawn Lloyd, who, as we've talked about a lot now at this point, was the National Team Player of the Week. So he did really well. Kamani Vidal out of Troy is someone I want to talk about, though. He's a stocky little guy. Let's see what he came in as. He came in 5'7.5", 215 pounds. So short but thick. I like what Kamani. Short and stout. There you go. Like the teacup.
Like the teapot.
Teapot. But Kamani Vidal, very productive at Troy, had some really big games over there, like multiple 200-plus yard games for Troy. And that was a really good team this year that put together a really good season. So Kamani Vidal is someone I think we should keep our eyes on. I don't know if he's going to be a day 3 pick or an undrafted free agent. It's kind of just on the cusp there, but he was very productive in college. I think a team might like giving him a role as like an RB3 on a team. I think that's where we'll probably see him, fighting for that RB3 spot on some team. Moving over to the American team and their running backs. Look, I've already talked about Ray Davis and the all-around skill set that he brings to the table. I love what he's done. He showed off really good receiving skills this week too, which we already saw in film, but it was nice to see it again at the Senior Bowl. Cody Schrader. Every time Cody Schrader gets the ball, he's making someone miss. And he's creating contact, yards after contact. He's getting the extra yards. He's getting the first down. Cody Schrader is one of my favorite players to watch in this entire draft. And I know he's going to be 25 years old when he gets through the NFL, but honestly, I don't care. He's going to be on a 4-year contract and he's going to be done after that. And that's fine. And if he's going to be 25, maybe even worry about that 4th year, but I never worry about running backs 4 years from now. Like they're all 2 to 3 year windows. Some of them are even just 1 year windows at this point. So Cody Schrader, as long as he gets relevant draft capital, which I think he should based on the talent. I understand the age thing. I get it. But talent-wise, there's no reason he shouldn't be like a 3rd-round pick. I think he should be a day 2 pick based on his talent. I get it if he falls to the day 3 because of his age. But I think he's got a lot of ability. And if he goes to any depth chart where there's room, he's going to make an impact. I cannot wait until Sleeper adds Cody Schrader. Jalen Wright, I know is a player, Bob, that you really like. There's like 4 or 5 players that we're going to be seeing in the top 3 rounds of our mock drafts that aren't even in Sleeper yet. So, some of these players that we're seeing are going to get pushed down even farther because there's players that we're not even able to take into consideration right now.
Let's not forget when Cody Schrader came to Missouri, he was 8th on the depth chart.
Yeah, they were talking about it at the Senior Bowl. Like he got there and the coach didn't even know who he was.
All right, we need 2 more, I think, to fill up this this mock here, and then we're gonna let it rip, aren't we, Bob?
Yes, we are. I'm just taking a couple minutes here to get something sorted. But what do we got here? Oh, I got 2 screens up. I don't need both up for that. I tell you what, I'm gonna drop the link for this in the comments. If we don't fill up in like 2 seconds here. So link coming in hot. That is your final warning. I meant to do it when Mike got back, but I was putzing. Sorry. Trying to get something set
We
up
got
better than I.
one more now.
One more. First come, first serve. Get it,
Here we
boys.
go. Look, I'm the 101 this time. How about that?
Can't get sniped. Model citizen chiming in.
Being
You
a
are
model citizen.
for
at
getting
that.
in this draft. Look at you, our savior, our knight in shining armor when we needed it. So with that said, volume all off. Mike, fingers
off.
away from the soundboard. All right, starting this draft, Nate, to you. What do you got?
And it's easy. It's an easy pick for me. It's Caleb Williams. Bob, we're on the same page here. I think it's quarterback. I think it's the best quarterback because, like you said, value-wise, Caleb Williams is already like a top 8, top 10 pick in startups. I think he's going to maintain that value. I believe in the talents of Caleb Williams. I understand he's fumbled the ball a lot. He's played a lot of hero ball at USC. I don't think USC's offense was very put together, though. I think there was a lot of chaos in that offense this year, like a lot of chaos in that program this year. And I think that led to a lot of the chaos that we saw with Caleb Williams. So, going back the 3 years that he's had in college, he's another one of those players that impressed us so much his freshman year that even though he has continued to play at such a high level, we've kind of got some prospect fatigue with him, just like I was talking about earlier with Xavier Worthy. So I understand the concerns out there, but at the end of the day, he's the 101 for me. Not too many questions asked.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just a reminder to everybody watching, maybe tuning in or maybe tuned out, missed it, whatever the case is. Superflex, PPR scoring, 0.5 tight end premium. So we got a little richer on the tight ends in this class, but I'm going quarterback here. I'm going Jaden Daniels at the 1.5. Before I picked Marvin Harrison, best of both worlds there, I guess. Brock Bowers chiming in at the 1.3, Malik Neighbors at 1.4. I take his teammate Jaden Daniels, and we see Drake May at the 1.6. Odunze wraps up the top 7. Model Citizen chiming in with the 8th pick. Unfortunately, you were nice enough to come in last minute, but you got the 108. So let's see what he does here. What they do. I don't want to assume, but Brian Thomas seems pretty consensus at this point that that's who's going 108 in most drafts at this point. I think pretty much across the board. So, 1.9, we got Cam Frost.
Wait a second. Did Brock Bowers go too high, even in tight end premium? We have to address that.
So Brock Bowers should still not go that high in tight end premium. No, still. Thoughts?
I'm going to tell you my gut instinct is this is a little high, even in tight end premium, especially 1 point, just like 0.5 tight end premium. If this was like one of those leagues where your tight end's getting like a whole extra point premium or something like that, then I think in those kind of scoring settings, the tight ends can be so productive and such a cornerstone piece for your team week in and week out that I think this would make sense. But otherwise, with this, it's super flex. I think you still need that'd be good. I still think you need to value the quarterbacks appropriately. And I think it's hard pressed for me, unless in this situation it's just a team need thing. It's hard pressed for me to take Bowers over both Neighbors and both of the quarterbacks of Daniels and May.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So after the top 7, Brian Thomas has mentioned Troy Franklin getting the respect he deserves at 1.9, Bo Nix 1.10, Jonathan Brooks at 1.11. Mike, is that where you were headed? Do you have to pivot now?
He was in my queue. I consider him. I'm going JT Sanders at the 112. Also, if I had the 112, I either traded for it, I just won the league. I might look to move the 112 for a tight end, like maybe a Cole Kmet or a Jake Ferguson or something like that. A guy that's already established in an offense, because they're going to be more productive for you faster than a guy like JT Sanders. And if I couldn't move it, I would still happily take JT Sanders. But when you just won the championship, I want to do whatever I can to give myself the best opportunity to repeat that championship. And typically, a player that's already productive in the NFL right now will be better off than a rookie. Might take some time to adjust. But still, JT Sanders, the tight end consolation prize in the 2024 NFL rookie draft class.
Nate just soaking up value at 2-1.
This is going to be a good draft, man. I'm getting excited.
The McConkey Tonk is alive and well at 2-1. So then we see Braylon Allen. Love to see that. Running back 2 off the board. Tom Sobieski with the pick. Love it. Michael Penix at 2-3. Bucky Irving. Is it too early for Ben Sinnott at this point? Probably.
Benson?
Feels early.
I mean, it's tight end premium. Where would
it's
you
still too early.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a little
man.
early still.
Too early. If it was a full point, probably not. But
This is one of those things. I think in a tight end premium, you could, if you really like Ben Sinnott, I think you could argue like late second.
Yeah.
I do think early second's a little early though.
Yeah. I'll go Xavier Worthy and be happy with the pick.
That's a good
we
pick,
talked
so.
about it. Talked about a good college productions throughout the course of his career. Never, improved, quote unquote, on a great freshman season, but still maintained great levels of production. So Blake chiming in that's saying May is becoming this year's Stroud. I don't know. Did he fail his S2 test yet? Who knows? We'll see.
I want to address.
Stroud was drafted. We're great.
There's a lot of Roma Dunze hate out there right now.
Yeah, I see that.
And not just in the YouTube comments, but also just on Twitter and around. And I don't get it, to be honest. And I think it's specifically a fantasy thing. Because if you listen to the NFL draft community, it's nothing like what we're hearing in fantasy football right now.
Sure.
In the NFL draft community loves Roma Dunze. In fact, half of them have him over Neighbors. Daniel Jeremiah has him over Neighbors. He has him as a number 3. Yeah, as the number 3 prospect on this big board, right after Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. So I understand that, a lot of our Twitter folk are saying Roma Dunze isn't all that, and there's worries about him, but you listen to the people that really know what they're talking about, and we're not hearing any of that. Roma Dunze is interchangeable with Neighbors for a lot of them. He is a bona fide top 5, 6, 7 pick in the NFL draft this year. I don't think we need to have this narrative of, oh, it's a top 6 and then Odunze as number 7. Agreed. He is firmly in that top 7 for me.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah, and Matt Harmon, not technically in the draft community, but definitely different with how he
wide receivers.
Yeah, with how he talks about or how he looks at them. How well do they run routes? Is a lot more closer to the draft side of things, and that's why a lot of his information is good, so good because it's that helpful. Mike takes Devontae Walker at 212. Pretty solid grab there, I think.
I like that. I like that value for Tez Walker. And is he raw? Yes. Is he the best wide receiver in this class? No. Do I think he has tremendous ceiling? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if he goes somewhere where he doesn't have to be the guy off the rip, because sometimes we see that happen. I think he'll be okay. And I saw some people mocking him in the first round to the Chiefs. I don't like that landing spot. I don't like that landing position for him, the draft capital for him overall. But I'd like to see him go somewhere and just learn for a year.
I could see Devontae Walker to the Chiefs. He could take MVS's role and probably do about the same thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh, better or worse.
R.I.P. Bob.
I just want to.
Before we get to Bob's sadness, I drafted Ray Davis. I've been picking him up in the 3rd round a ton. I think the 301, I'm still happy picking him up there. I think some people might think that's a little early, but I think by the time we hear his name called, I think he has the chance to be a day 2 running back. At worst, I think he's locked into the 4th round. So I'm going to be happy to pick him up at 301.
Oh, fine. I'll just take somebody else I like. Jacob Cowing. Earlier than I took him before I left, Brendan Rice on the board this time, who I was also considering very highly. But Jacob Cowing, polishes a route runner, great catcher of the ball, and good after the catch as well. Not just a catch the ball, fall down type of guy. He'll get some work this time. Yeah, Tom chiming in. But so then we see Xavier Legette, baby hands, next off the board. And Space and Feld is on the clock at 3-7. Curious to see where he goes here. But I'm heartbroken right now. I just really want to draft Ben Sinnott. And I should have changed my draft spot is what I should have done. So I was later in the 2nd. That's what I should have done.
You know how there's like Bowser and there's baby Bowser?
Sure.
It's like DK and baby DK. That's the
Sure.
Xavier Leggett.
Gotcha. Sure. Fair
It's a
enough.
tinier version.
Oh boy, in every way. Jalen McMillan, still love saying that name. Y'all forgot it was tight end premium. I don't see, here's, I don't disagree that more tight ends could probably go earlier, but with how this class is shaking out so far, I mean, I get it that, yeah, they could probably go a little early, but I don't know. I don't.
It's kind of like the running backs. Like you kind of have to wait and see how it plays out with draft capital and situation.
Yeah, a little bit. Which, granted, I have sent it as a day 2 pick. I'm pretty confident he's a second rounder, but with his blocking ability being
I think so
as
too.
good as it is,
Yeah.
with all of the upside he has to as a receiver, I probably realistically could have taken him at 2.5, and maybe it's reaching now. But in tight end premium leagues down the stretch, maybe he settles closer to 2.7. But if I really want to go get my guy, maybe I have to draft him a little earlier. As much as I hate the get your guy narrative that's out there, but either which way, so. Unless the TEP is over 0.75, not overly excited. I get it. Listening to a few NFL podcasts, the NFL seems to be lower on Drake May for some reason. I've heard this as well, not a ton, but
Yeah.
I've naturally been on lower on Drake May this whole time, and I'm not saying that to say like I gotcha, but like just I don't not get it. It's kind of what I'm saying. So let me see Brendan Rice at 3.8, Roman Wilson, another Senior Bowl riser for sure at 3.9, Audric Estimate 3.10. Mike, did you get sniped on Cade Stover before you drafted Jimmy Fresh?
I actually got sniped on Audric Estimate and Cade Stover was how I had my queue set up.
Boom.
So thanks, guys.
Solid.
Love it. Love to see it. Nate.
But I still like Jamari
Thrash.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Yep. And I'm going tight end here. I'm going Holker. One of my favorite tight ends left on the board. He looked really good in the Shrine Bowl, man. I don't know if he's a day 2 guy, but he certainly seems like he could be a productive like fourth round pick.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't know, man. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see Holker grow day 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's kind of like a 3rd, 4th round kind of guy.
Sure.
So with how the NFL's been valuing tight end recently, I could totally see him being 3rd round.
I get another guy.
There it is.
Tanner McLaughlin. I'll take him at 4.5. Jaheim Bell is another one who, came in a little smaller. I think people are a little less excited about him.
A move tight end.
With that, yeah, more of a move tight end than
H-back yesterday when I was watching the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, they did.
So I'm just curious where he's going to go and how he's going to be used.
He's got to be you got to find like a creative offense that like a Jonnu Smith kind of thing, or some of the ways that some of the ways that like the Panthers have used, well, not the Panthers, the Colts have used Kylan Granson.
Okay. I would like that.
Like in a similar way. I think Jaheim Bell is better than Kylan Granson, but in kind of similar mold and size.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah. Because I like all his efficiencies. He put together decent enough college production before and after the transfer. So, I don't hate him. I'd like to see, but the size is a little concerning. But I think weight-wise, he came in okay.
Someone said I see him being like an Evan Ingram. I think he's just too small to be an Evan Ingram. Honestly, I understand like athletically. He came in at 6'1", 244. So he's weight-wise, he's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually 6'1", 6'1.7. So round up
close
to 6'2".
6'2".
So that is a little intriguing. I think if we're talking about an Evan Ingram comp, I think if Johnny Wilson went over to tight end, there's that possibility of an Evan Ingram, Darren Waller kind of thing going on there, where he's just like a big slot.
Sure. Tom Sobieski about board his plane. Great work today. A lot of fun. Fly safe, buddy. Get to where you're going and all of that. Thanks for supporting and everything. And this one's in the books. We got 4 drafts today in the books for y'all. And we're not done. There's going to be even more coming up on Patreon. But before we get on out of here, anything you guys want to add to this draft board, anything you want to add to everything we've discussed, you want to preview anything we got coming on the channel and whatnot? What are your thoughts here, boys?
I just want to say that I'm making Dylan Johnson a thing, whether you want it to happen or not. It's going to happen.
Unconsented Dylan Johnson love over here.
Non-consensual Dylan Johnson. That's what's going on right now.
Woo. I know that I've loved my hauls from each one of these drafts. I think it's a great year. I love this draft class. I know a lot of people have been down on it at times, but I think the further we get into this class, the more depth that we're seeing come out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe the settings for the startup is going to be Superflex 12 team, no tight end premium, as far as I'm aware.
I don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will. I believe if you're in here, drop that comment just to confirm, so I don't have to be on my phone anymore. But yeah, love this draft. Love what drafts are looking. You know, we always kind of get to a point where we get to, we get into the class further. We like a lot of players, but something that's always going to happen, the draft board is going to shrink at some point. And this is, not to be, the bearer of bad news, but it's going to happen. Players are going to get drafted later than they expect. Players are not going to perform well at the combine. Players are not going to perform well at pro days. I'm sure injuries may pop up, whatever the case is. The draft board's going to shrink, but right now, this is a nice starting group to have. A lot of times we're not too excited beyond like the third round. Now it's a pretty nice time to be alive and be drafted. And if you want to draft that much more, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind, 7-day free trial. Get in on it.
Do it.
Devin chiming in, agree with Nate. Past years, I get so mad when I get sniped. This year, I'm like, oh, I'll just take this guy instead. And I hope that continues because, this should be a fun draft. And, throughout all of it, we'll be talking rookies to avoid, who to draft instead, some sleepers we've already touched on a little bit, must draft players we've touched on a little bit. We're going to be touching on plenty as long as we keep rolling on. So anything else to add, boys? Anything you guys want to highlight as we kind of roll on out of here? We'll
see you guys in the Patreon. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I do have while I fail or struggle to read here to y'all, I was trying to put these up on the screen, but I don't think I can get them on here the way I want to. Maybe I will. I'll try it one more time and see how it goes. Give me 2 shakes, get this set up and everything. Anything you guys want to touch on? Do you guys want to talk about, you guys want to preview the draft guide at all? You want to talk on that a little bit?
Mike.
Yeah, draft guide. It's going to be coming out. That will be available, I believe. What did we make it available last year? Sunday. So when the draft is officially over, because obviously we use Saturday night to make sure that everything, all our lowercase j's are dotted and everything is good. We want to make sure everything's good to go for you guys. And then last year we had to do some last minute scouting when guys that, we didn't figure out. Yeah, some tight ends, which I'm sure will happen this year. Draft guide is going to be great. I don't remember exactly how many players we have.
About 70.
About 70 players. There's going to be some stuff. There's going to be some written pieces in there as well. I plan on working on 1. Maybe that'll branch out and turn into 2. I don't know. We'll see. But it's going to be good stuff. It is a beautiful PDF document right on your phone, tablet, or computer, and you could look at it whenever you want. And you could print it out too if you wanted to. Would be fantastic.
Good.
Would probably be expensive and take a while to print.
A lot of color.
But, send me a couple bucks. I'll print it out at work when my boss isn't around. So I'll mail it to you.
There you go.
Oh,
all right. I do. Go ahead. Sorry. I do want to drop in some testimonials from our Patreon group yesterday. You guys were showing the love. Shout out to all the patrons out there watching along that may or may not have posted these things. And there's always a lot of nice things said, but I just want to shout out just a couple I've screenshotted. This one, first off the rip, honestly, I've been supporting these guys, or I've been watching so much of these guys' content, and it's helped me to make the deals I've made this offseason. They deserve money from all the stuff they put out regularly. Thank you so much. Immediately when this was said, upgraded from the $1 tier all the way to the $10 tier. Not necessary, but greatly appreciated. Another one, the content just wasn't the same old boilerplate BS. Waffle Hauser, we saw him in some of our mocks. Agree to this when I heard them talk. It was a little bit consensus because, of course, the top guys are the top guys, but the depth and the viewpoint were unique. A few people have that, and it's nice. Not a screen guy at all, but I spent way more time in here in the Discord, and I really only watch the rewind videos now. Appreciate the heck out of you, Mr. 1-2. And the nuance is where my thinking goes, and that's where this group has their microscope. Love it. And then he shouted out another member in the Discord. And then I think this is the last one I got. Chris, shouting you out here. I think it helps that the guys in here are so often, and you can always see them posting or get a response back. Find some places it could be days or not at all at getting a response. Plus, you got people like Caleb, Hoff, and Dylan. I want to say is Pegs. Derek. I apologize. I knew it was one of the two. My bad. Meant to confirm that beforehand. And many others who are always kicking around to help out. And that's part of the beauty of it. You get the whole community, not just us chiming in, and a lot of different viewpoints, so on and so forth. And I believe this was Wafflehauser again, accidentally cut off his thing here. But also, I have to say it is embarrassing in a good way for Rewind how much more active this Discord is than the others I've been in. I mean, those things are ghostly. So thank you so much, everybody, for the kind comments, really tugging on the old heartstrings. And, so if you were thinking about hopping in the Discord, get a free 7-day trial, check it all out. Expansive Discord. We got everything from college, everything from, in-season stuff, obviously not as popular right now because it's not in season anymore, but just one way to support the brand, go deeper with us, get constant advice on how to help make your teams better. And we also have the roster reviews for that, for really in-depth advice quickly. Turnaround on that is about 2 weeks. Just depends on how bogged down we are and things like that. But that is for all the in-depth fun, all the things we got going on, the draft guide upcoming that we're working on tirelessly to get done. Then we have the Patreon for the constant support from all you guys and hanging out with you guys, going deep with you guys and getting to know you guys, hang out with you guys, and all of that. And all the support is a blast. So anything else you guys want to add before we get out of here? No?
Good to go, man.
Well, with that said, everybody, leave a like if you haven't already. Comment below if you haven't already. Let us know what you think. And all the patrons out there supporting, drafting with us, and everybody who hopped in from YouTube. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. But with all that said, we're going to get the heck on out of here. We will see you in the next one. But until then, I hope that y'all have a good one.